Here we go again. Good time zone and warm greetings to wherever you are in the world. This is Amelie, aka TGCF Puffin, and I am here today to read Volume 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing, which is basically Season 2. The best season of the two. Whether you're thirsting for boys, girls, blood, violence, this is the season of abundance. But I do admittedly not feel like I'm quite done with Volume 1 just yet, because I completely forgot to give you guys the final tallies we've been keeping, and there's also the matter of the appendices. I'm not planning on reading all of the appendices, but I just wanted to go through them with you guys to get a rough idea what's in there, because I haven't actually had a peek yet, even though we've been talking about them, they've been mentioned to me. So let's have a look into it, maybe learn something new, and hopefully in the future I'll know where to go if I need to look anything up. But first and foremost, the tallies. I think the most successful tally we probably had was the ellipsis answer tally, in which Hualian replies with an ellipsis answer a total of 27 times in all of Volume 1. That is in addition to 4 whole question mark ellipses. Well, all the other characters put together come in at a 14 total ellipsis answers. I'll be continuing this tally for Volume 2 as well to see if this is a thing that just keeps coming. On a side note, Volume 2 is about 20-ish pages longer than Volume 1, so hopefully it should have a corresponding increase in ellipsis answers as well. But we'll just have to wait and see. The laugh or cry tally comes in at a total of 7 for all of Volume 1, which is not an insignificant number. Like, even in just the first book, I would say that's already an iconic phrase, you know? But I'm looking forward to seeing this increase as we go along. Or will I? It's usually in very embarrassing situations, so we'll see. Save my poor boy. And last but not least, disappointingly, after our wonderful chapter 11, the Gaga tally stops at 14 true Gaga spoken from Sanlang's own mouth. I say disappointing because there were no Gagas in chapter 11. However, to compensate, we had plenty of Your Highnesses, and I mean, it's like Hualian says, those were the best kinds of Your Highnesses ever spoken to him. So it's fine, I'll let him have it. However, I am looking forward to getting back on track with the Gaga tally, and I know for a fact there will be quite a few coming up in Season 2, Volume 2. Okay, since we are talking Chapter 11, a few notes on that as well. Thank you so much, by the way, if you were able to join me for the live reading of Chapter 11. That was a lot of fun, and I hope to be able to do this in the future as well. It was cute, it was fun to have like that chat whenever like I got to certain parts and you could just see it fill up with messages, so you knew that, oh, this is one of those parts. That really gets people going, I guess. Though admittedly, I wasn't able to catch up on every message that was sent, but I hope you guys had a fun time, I did as well. So here's for more live readings in the future. But oh my god, Chapter 11. It was everything I wanted. Dear God, I thank you for your generous bounty. Please continue to unleash your oblivious homosexuality upon this man until marriage becomes the only salvation. Forever and ever, Hualian. We've been blessed. It was great. It was good. And we now have the ring. The ring exists. And it's described as very like crystal-like, which I really enjoy in the context of ashes, because we have a bunch of carbon basically. And I'm guessing that the idea is that he's somehow been able to compress them until they become, you know, a crystal ring. More specifically, a diamond. Like, that is something you can actually do nowadays. People are synthesizing diamonds, and I actually looked this up just for fun, but you can actually, like, there are funeral services like this. Like, you can crystallize, make your loved one's ashes into a diamond. Which is mildly morbid. However, that is exactly what Hua Chang did. He made himself into a diamond. A diamond ring. Only in this kind of fantasy universe, we can look at that and think it's kind of romantic. But anyway, we are not judging. Also in chapter 11, just like in episode 11 of the Donghua, we do get the first hint that Huachang is connected to Hualian's past. Hualian does, as in the Donghua, tell Huachang about the time he told someone to live for him, make him the reason for living because they couldn't go on anymore. And just like in the Donghua, I think that you as a reader should be able to tell that that person was very likely Huachang. Of course, there's still room for doubt, but I think at this point, that is our first clue that goes towards the Season 2, Episode 11 reveal, well, half reveal, that Huachang has something to do with Hualian's life before he is ended. As for being able to tell that he is the child, I don't know. The thing about the child in the book so far is that it's mentioned as the first big event, the first big tribulation in a sense that Hualian kind of went through. The 2 events at 17. So I think that as a reader, it's not something you easily forget. I think it should be lingering in the back of your mind. And I think that if you're trying to figure out how to connect Huachang with Hualian, maybe. I do think that maybe the first readers might start to suspect that there is a connection there. I don't think you'd be sure though. I think you'd be like, maybe I'm overthinking this because you have the bandage kit as well, Lang Ying as we know. And I think it might have been more natural at this point in time to connect him to the child. It's hard to say. I don't know if I would have had suspicions. But if I did, I don't think I would have been confident enough to voice them at that point in time, if not for the cover of Volume 2. Now, before the covers were a thing, with Hualian holding the child, and maybe you starting to realize that there's a pattern to these covers, you got Hualian and Huachang. But before the covers were a thing, I think this would be even harder to suss out. So that is still one of the secrets and reveals that we're kind of waiting for both the reader to have revealed and of course, for Hualian to get to know as well. Other than that, the information we learn from Chapter 11 is more or less the same as the special episode. We talk a little bit about the Ghost Realm contra the Heavenly Realm, how it seems a lot simpler for Hualian, who is in the heaven you have to remember all these titles and whatever, and it's like an insult if you don't. And also we talk a little bit about the other calamities, we mentioned Chi Rong and we mentioned Blackwater sinking ships, who does get another title reveal, which is Blackwater Demon Xuan. But as I understand, this title basically is Blackwater. In the Chinese version, it wouldn't really pop out at anyone because the translator chose to kind of do this to keep the word Xuan, which is the new part for me. I think that's something we should be paying attention to. If the name Xuan pops up, I think we'll be on alert, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm putting that over here in the corner just so that I'll remember it. And that's honestly that for the Chapter 11 discussion. We had a little bit of a discussion throughout the live reading as well. I hope you guys checked that out if you weren't able to make the live. The replay should be there for you. Though for some reason the chat replay is not working anymore. I'm trying to look into that. And of course, thank you to everyone who spent time with me in the book club, in my Discord server, where we've been talking about this book series every day. And just letting you guys know, if you didn't catch it yet, we also have spoiler chats, which I do not venture into. So if you would like to talk spoilery things that you notice as you're reading along with us, consider joining my Discord server, where you can talk to or read what other fans are talking about in the spoiler channels, without having to think about trying to keep stuff away from me. Because I am sure that for all of you who are reading this book for the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th time, you're realizing new things and you're noticing things, or you have things that you would like to share with others and talk about. And as always, the link is in the description below. So Appendices, right? There is actually a big chunk of this book is Appendices. The whole last... Hello, Hualian. So there's around almost 40 pages of appendices, which is insane. So again, not really reading through them, but I'd like to just have a look and see what's in here. Let's see if we can discover something fun. Okay, so the first thing we're getting to is a characters and name guide. And the first thing it says is the identity of certain characters may be a spoiler. Use this guide with caution on your first read of the novel. Which tells me that maybe we shouldn't be reading these too carefully. But the first thing we have are the main characters, and Hualian is on top of that list. And you have his name in Chinese as well as the meaning of the characters, his heavenly title, Shanle, Heaven's Delight, as well as some information about his Four Famous Tales title. And again, I don't know if I should dare read into it, but it's just nice to see that we do have a character list. Also under the main characters, we have Hua Chang and San Long. Yeah, them all being in the main characters list, that's funny. That's funny. Imagine looking at that and just being convinced that they really are two different characters. Heaven Official's Blessing, guys. Except there is a love triangle. Under Heavenly Officials and Heavenly Associate, we find Fangxin, Fuyao, Junwu, Lingwen, Muqing, Nanfang, Pei Ming, Pei Shou, and Windmaster. Ghost Realm and Ghost Realm Associates, Banyue, Kamuk, Tirong, Ship Sinking Blackwater, White No-Face, and Xuanji. Ooh, sentient weapons and spiritual objects, Roya, like as if evil or sword. Okay, I ended up reading the Roya's description, guys, because it's so cute though. It's very short. Hualian sentient strip of white silk, and it is an earnest and energetic sort. If a bit nervous sometimes, and will go to great lengths to protect Hualian, quite literally, as it can stretch out to almost limitless dimensions. Okay, that's funny, that's very cute. Like, we've got some locations. Mount Tonglu is in here, Copper Kiln Mountain, okay. Yong'an, meaning eternal peace. Well, wasn't that ambitious? And here we have a name guide with names, honorifics, and titles. Okay, it seems quite extensive. Oh lord. Okay, we've got like diminutives, nicknames, and name tags. A couple of these I've learned just from watching the Donghua and talking to people in fandom. Like, I know the like what is used for Shao, I guess. Shao, meaning little. Yeah, like a few of these are familiar. Gaga is in here as well. Gosh, there's so many. I don't even think any of these, except for Gaga, were mentioned in the book. So I'm guessing these are just like a gazillion different titles and stuff that you might come across. I found Shizun. Shijun? Yeah, excuse my French. Daozang Gaga. Pronunciation guide. Oh my gosh. I as a English second language speaker, I both hate and love these. Hate them because they are no help whatsoever. Love them because they're so fucking funny. I remember seeing it for the first time in, I think it was in Christopher Paolini's Aragon book series, where he made a pronunciation guide for his characters and also for his version of Elvish. And I remember just leaving more confused than when I entered. like look at this, guys. Hualian. Hualian. Hua Chang. Hua Qiang. Yeah, I'm not taking this very seriously. John May. Oh, they're doing the titles as well. Heaven Official's Blessing, or Tian Gwen Tsu Fu. Shan Ching Chio. Yeah, no, I prefer learning these by listening and repeating. I think that learning languages via this sort of romanization using the Roman alphabet really diminishes the sounds that languages actually have. Like, you can't really do it. I remember before I learned any Korean whatsoever, I know a little bit of Korean, like, by the way. But before that, I remember trying to learn Korean names and being just so confused. And the moment I cracked the writing system, everything just became a lot easier. And I know that I fuck up Hualian's name a lot, because I say it in a very foreign way, and should probably practice that a little bit more. Hualian. Hua Chang. Maybe one day, guys, maybe one day. And I no longer have the Dongwell to support me when I'm encountering new names, so it's tough out there. But anyways, let's move on. We've got a glossary of the genres of danmei, wuxia, and xianxia. Web novels, I know what a web novel is. And some terminology like array, ascension, auspicious clouds, stuff like that. Like there are some things that have shown up, like the fortune shaker and the cultivation thing. But like a lot of these things are just not mentioned in this book. I think this is more of a general guide. Ha! Hualian has its own entry in this. Like if you couldn't tell. I mean, it was an 8-chapter title, so if you're not used to shipping names, I guess that's nice. Ooh, Red String of Fate, I know what that is. Swan Brothers, I have recently learned. And that seems to be vinegar. Why vinegar? To say someone is drinking vinegar or tasting vinegar means they're having jealous or bitter feelings. Oh, okay. Generally used for a love interest growing jealous while watching the main character receive the attention of a rival suitor. Okay, learned something new there. I'll definitely remember that, drinking vinegar. And that is indeed the end of volume 1. Little butterfly here at the end page for us. Which means the end of an era, honestly. I don't even know where to put this book. I'll put it up here for now and I'll figure out if I should put it on the bottom of the bunch again or if I should find another place for it. Because we will be getting more stuff to put up in my limited space in this corner of my living room, which I am super excited about. And in fact, something arrived. Admittedly, I removed a lot more plastic than what you guys are seeing here, but honestly, I think he had great timing. Join me as I unboxed the happiness I bought with my tax returns this year. I saw him pop up on screen. Isn't he gorgeous? Oh my lord. Admittedly, I pulled him out of the package earlier to get all the plastics away, but I put him right in because I wanted to get the first impressions with you guys. But here he is. Oh my gosh, there's so much plastic. Just wait, Your Highness. I'll rescue you. He's like a little astronaut who's just like waiting in there for me. But yes, I did get a Hualian mini doll. I mean, ever since I first saw this creature, I've been mesmerized by the look in his eyes. Like he is staring into your soul, wishing you all the luck and happiness in the world. Though I am suspecting that he's taken it for himself. Though only as long as you keep him close and nearby. Like this is the face of a creature that you will find in your hallway at 2 a.m. when you're going to have a glass of water. And oddly, I'm fine with that. Because he is he. Oh my gosh. Well, so the box is a little bit scrunched up. That's alright. Says here on the side, he has a changeable style, high precision embroidery, soft filling, and soft and skin friendly. Skin, I suppose. Let's see about getting him out of here. I kind of want to keep this art on the side of the package. Maybe I can cut that out at some point and put somewhere. Because it's really cute, it's really nice. Little plastic tab on top. Ooh, are these his clothes? Gosh, I hope I've ended up getting the right one. Little white string. Ooh. Coming out. That's his hat here on the back. What are these? Are these supposed to be his cursed shackles or whatever? Ooh. We have instructions. I can't read these. Oh, the shield came off. You're all right, baby. You're all right. Oh my lord. He's naked. This is NSFW now. Oops. Don't report my video, guys. There's something about the way he's looking at me. I already love him so much. But yeah, he does have like, ooh. So his hair is mostly like one piece of fabric, it feels. Well, a couple of pieces of fabrics just glued on top of each other. Very nice and soft. But from the back, it looks a bit weird. From the front, it's totally fine. Little bun. Oh, that's what the string is for, isn't it? Oh my god. Are they supposed to do that? The instructions say to squeeze him if he is flat, I guess. Like if his face is flat, you should be able to squeeze him around. I don't know, he looks good though. I think he looks good. Do I seriously need to do anything to make him look better? He's adorable. Just picking away some of this lint. Gotta get him nice and clean. Just a little bit of lint from his hair fabric, I think. But yeah, they're right, the embroidery is really nice. Gosh, he's adorable. I don't like the noise it makes when he moves. But I do like that his limbs are adjustable. Can he sit? What if I break him on screen? I could never show anyone this episode. Oh my lord. Maybe he can't sit. I don't actually know the limits of this doll. Yeah, he can sit, kinda, sorta. Let's get him dressed. I'm feeling mildly uncomfortable about this. There were no instructions for these. Like, are they? What are they? Because they really do look to be stickers. And yeah, they are. They are like see-through stickers. Are they supposed to be like his cursed shackles? Any Hualian doll havers out there know what these are and what they're for? Let me know, because I'm so confused. Especially these round ones. Like, how are you supposed to put them on him? His head is too big. I really want to know what exactly they are for. But let's have a look at his little robes. I also forgot to show you guys, he comes with a name card. I don't know if those are the characters for Hualian. They're probably not. Something day, is that his birthday? I'm gonna have to ask about this as well. But I like that he has ID, so he has legally entered this country. Ooh. Well, this came in several parts. I feel like I should have ironed these out or something. Okay, baby boy, let's get you dressed. What do you think goes on top? The shirt or the skirt? We're just gonna wing it and see what happens. Okay, Denta, I need you to reach your arm out for me. Don't fight it. Trust me, you'll feel better once you have your clothes on. Oh, I forgot I actually have instructions I can follow. Yeah, I think the sheer one is supposed to go on the outside. And we've got him shirted. He has a shirt on now, which means we should get him skirted. Yeah, I didn't really play that much with dolls when I was a kid. My sister had like a whole collection of dolls with doll clothing, some that my grandmother even knitted for them, which I thought was cute and fun as a child, but I didn't really play with them that much. So this is coming along well. We're looking close to something. I suppose that once you get the translucent part on, it doesn't really matter. Oh, he has shoes, I just realized. Oh my gosh, these are adorable. Look at these. Ooh, also charms. I didn't even notice they were there. Okay, Your Highness, your right foot for me, please. I feel like the Velcro on these aren't really gonna close around his thick legs. Yeah, good enough. I'm doing this upside down, so I'm just like looking at his butt while we're doing this. I feel like I can't show this on screen. We might have a situation of calamitous proportions. Don't tag Sanlong in this video, please. And your outer robes, Your Highness. Ooh, noticing that these have a really nice little pattern to them that's like kind of translucent. Very cute detail. Gosh, getting him dressed in just one set of clothing is a lot of effort. I'm suddenly realizing why some of you guys have multiple of him for like your different sets of clothing. Holy shit. There we go, Your Highness. You look so good in all white. Now we just have to get your details. Ooh, this could have used some ironing. I'm gonna have to get on that later. I'm guessing this long ribbon is for the hair. Is this tiny ribbon supposed to be Roya? Okay, Tianxia, stand still while I do your hair. Stop wriggling so much. Yeah, that definitely needs ironing, this little ribbon, but But here it is, here we go. Looking so much like yourself already. So we have his belt. He's so cute with these blue little details, I think. And his charms, do they also go around his... Yeah, they do. My god, seriously, I thought this was gonna be like a really easy, quick thing to do. But I feel like I need a degree in ancient Chinese wear or something. Like, how do I tie this? Because that is not a ribbon. What if I loop this one and then just tie it off? Close enough. That kind of works, right? Need that to be a lot tighter actually, but you know what? So far so good. Cheating a bit, tightening it in the back behind his head. No one's gonna see that. And here's the hat. This shit is huge. Even I could wear this for a cosplay. Oh my god, he's actually precious. Oh my lord. Almost forgot Roya. I actually have no idea if this is supposed to be Roya. Like, where else would we put it? Let's see. It's this one. Right hand. Admittedly, the bamboo hat smells a little bit funky. But you know what? He's the scrap immortal. I'm sure he smells a little bit funky as well. Okay, after spending an almost embarrassingly long time getting maybe Roya to stay on Hualian's wrist, I present to you His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, aka the Scrap Immortal. Oh my lord, he's kind of hypnotizing. Like, honestly, just have a look at him. Like, doesn't he do something to you? Like, if you...
Stella.
I am beyond pleased, actually. There's such a mess around me. I still don't know what to do with that. Oh, you know what? This is not Roya. Is this supposed to be around his neck? It's supposed to be around his neck, right? It kind of does look like he put something around his neck in that one picture. That's probably exactly what that was, but for now we're gonna pretend it's Roya. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to put him somewhere cool. I kind of want him on my lap always while reading, but just for today I kind of want to display him. He is absolutely gorgeous. Actually, I am so happy, and I'm quite happy that I ended up getting him in the end, despite having spent a few months already going, do I really need a Hualian mini doll? To which the answer is obviously yes. Yes, you do. Yeah, my happiness levels have already increased. 11 out of 10 purchase, would do it again. Yeah, I love him. Now, I will admit, it was easier to make the decision to purchase him in the month of June, July, than back in, say, February. And that is not entirely because I am myself economically conscious and managed to save up for stuff like this. It is definitely also because I have some really wonderful people who have made sure that I can purchase myself a little piece of happiness like this and not feel like I'm less off, not really deserving of it. And those people are, of course, my lovely followers over at the Temple of Corkboards, aka the people who've supported me on Ko-fi. So yes, we'll have Hualian help us do mentions now. So His Highness and I give thanks to the wonderful people on this board who have donated to the Temple of Corkboards, and who have therefore made his travels here successful, eventually. Yeah, people in my Discord server might already know that he was a failed delivery on the first day for no reason whatsoever. I've never had a failed delivery ever to this apartment. Not even with the company that he came with. But that's alright, he is finally here, in no small part thanks to you guys. And this week I do have a new addition to the Temple of Corkboards. Welcome to the wonderful Sanda and I. Thank you so much for your contribution to the temple, and I hope you're enjoying the videos. I think I can squeeze you in somewhere around here-ish. But I'm also lucky enough to have people who keep coming back, and first one up today is the wonderful Gibby. Thank you so much for returning with another donation. I'll be upgrading your name tag today and also granting you this flower. So thank you so much for supporting me. And another flower today will be added for the lovely Sappy. Thank you so much for your donation this time around. And another flower today is going up for the lovely Shady. Thank you so much for coming back with another very generous donation. Putting this next to your name tag. Which leaves me with a few hearts to put up as well. This pink one for the wonderful Willow, thank you so much for your donation. Another one for the lovely Mia Rose, thank you so much for coming back again. And this red one for Muley, thank you so much for donating to me once again. And I really hope you guys are enjoying these videos. And last but not least, I picked this green lime looking fruit for the wonderful Ouija, who came back with such a big donation once again. So thank you so much for enjoying these videos. I'm so glad that they're giving you so much joy, and I really hope you'll enjoy my reading of volume 2 also. And that's it. Yeah, my system for this has been a bit all over the place, honestly, but I'm having a lot of fun just developing the board. We still have plenty of space to go, so as long as this is working, I'm gonna keep sticking with it. And I also got some new pins. I'm excited to start handing those out as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for your love and support for my volume 1 reading. I hope you enjoy volume 2 just as much. So if you too would like a shout out in my videos and maybe collect some pins for your own name tag, the link will be down in the description. But another way you can do that is by sending something to my Postboks. Ta-da! I've got a huge collection of mail and postcards already, and I've got another one to add to the board. This time, a lovely postcard filled with sunflowers was sent from the lovely Mercedes, who also happens to be one of the followers at the Temple of Corkboards. Thank you so much, Mercedes, for sitting down and taking the time to write me this postcard. And hopefully, if it's alright with you, I'd like to read it out to everyone else as well. Mercedes writes, "Hi Amelia, aka Puffin. Yeah, that's me. I am writing this while watching the study session for season 2 episode 11. I haven't done the episode 12 one yet, I just remembered. But yeah, this was back in June then, it's been ages already. Admittedly, this has been lying on my table for a couple of weeks at least. I just never remembered to actually pull it up on the Mailbox board, and I'm so sorry for that. But I'm excited to do it now. So writing this while watching the study session for season 2 episode 11 and drinking my first coffee of the day, I thought it was appropriate. I cannot express strongly enough how much joy your TGCF videos have brought me over the past several months. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing your journey and your theories with us. It has truly been the best way to re-experience this series. Looking forward to many adventures ahead. I will never look at corkboards the same. Mercedes, love. There's no personal information on this. I just have to show you guys. A Mercedes drew a little Hualian and Sunlong in the corner. Almost like the masks that we see in season 2 in the Yongan flashbacks. And then there's like Roya and Urbig as well. Oh, it's so gorgeous. I love little details like this. It's so cute. It kind of makes me want to display the postcard this way. I do love the sunflowers though. You've made this hard for me. I just like the art that much. I might flip it around sometimes. Let's do it with the lovely Sunlong and Hualian showing up. Ta-da! Guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time to write these physical postcards and letters to me. Like, even if they're handwritten or not, they still feel crafted, and the fact that they're physical just makes me, honestly, like, it's one of my favorite things. The fact that I get to carry pieces of you with me, keep them here as a part of my life displayed in my living room. It makes me so excited, and I'm so grateful that, again, you're spending your time with me, with the videos I'm creating on my journey and communicating with me in every possible way. Again, you're truly making this so special. Mercedes, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're watching this video as well. And that's it for my backlog of things. Well, I actually have a huge backlog of things that I still want to do / need to do. But more than that right now, I really want to get into volume 2, so let's do that. So I had a bit of a coffee break, and when I was coming back, this is absolutely totally unrelated, but just in case, Xuanji? Like, I know for a fact that this is probably an entirely different kind of Xuan, but as I was looking on the board, I noticed that she does have the same name as the title of Sinking Ships Blackwater. We've solved the mystery, guys. Xuanji is Blackwater. Though we also have Qingxuan. So if I was wrong the first time, I'm right the second time. Windmaster is Blackwater. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Okay, but jokes aside, I think there's a reason why the translator decided to do that with the name, and I think that because, like I said earlier, I think Livian mentioned that it's not as notable in the actual Chinese text, because it just comes across as meaning, you know, like water sinking ships. So cross that off of your bingo card. Hinted / spoiled by the translation, the official translation. Not even the appendices. But okay, let's do what we actually came here to do. And the best way to do that is actually to pull out the next postcard. Right, so I keep all the extra merch I got from the special edition of volume 8 in here, but like between the two poster sheets or whatever, so I have to like fish to find the correct one. I can see the edges of the gay one and the 5th volume probably. That seems Titanic-ish to me. This is it. This is it. Ta-da! This is the full art of the book cover for volume 2, which features the full body of Hualian and the child that he is caught. You can see his sword, he's holding it back like that, and that is the mask that he has dropped. In the Donghua, they portray the mask as a full face sort of mask, while here it seems to be more of one that just covered the upper part of the face, more like the Fangxin mask in the Donghua. And we've got all these flowers dancing around, because the flower crown martial god. I just want to sit and admire Hualian some more, however I can do that better on the book cover, and I've already admired the book cover for like ages it seems. But the fun thing about these postcards is that they do have a backside. I'm gonna fucking cry, this is so cute. Oh, this took me so off guard. Guys, have a look. It's the flower-crowned Marshall Stout catching this little fox cub. I'm fucking... Kit, fox kit, whatever. But I'm absolutely, oh my gosh. He's looking at him. The way he's looking at him. Oh, this is wonderful. However, now that I'm doing this, I do remember that some of them might be a little bit spoilery. So let me know if there's some postcards that I shouldn't be looking at the back of while we're doing this. But yes, the reason why we're pulling out the postcard is because we have to create the mood for volume 2, which we do by... Ta-da! We're officially in volume 2 era now. The corkboard is volume 2 themed. And here it is. Heaven Official's Blessing Volume 2. We've already admired the art. I just love the details on his whole outfit for this. The Donghua outfit as well is absolutely gorgeous, but this one definitely gives more of the gold feel. There's so much gold, there's so much red, and gosh, he really does look like a young prince. It's okay, Hualian, you look really good now too, but I do appreciate that we do have a broader wardrobe for you, okay? Let's see, opening this. So the jacket for volume 2 features heavily like these orangey and pink colors, and also the flower. The flower seems to be the big thing for this one. You've got it here on the spine, whereas volume 1 had the butterfly. However, the first inside glossy page will also feature the butterflies, as well as the author's signature, I'm quite sure. I love that they made the one character have a face, by the way. Next page, we have the full spread again, but bigger this time, and oh my gosh. I could stare at this piece for ages. I just love the way that Hualian just looks so warm and so affirming and so safe when he is looking down at this little kid he just caught. Like, he wants him to feel safe after going through quite a traumatizing experience. And I just love that. Just wanting to protect. I'm gonna run out of breath, guys. Oh my gosh, look at this art. Look at it. I don't know if you can see it clearly. So we've got Hualian, and I think that's the Sunlung form. I'm hoping this is in Puchi Shrine, and they're making food. The little bowl is like steaming over here, and whatever's in that bowl steaming differently. Oh, and there's just a little heart coming from Sunlung. I absolutely adore this. And that is the front part of the book before we go into contents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 chapters, and then an act 2. I'm guessing this is what you guys meant by that there are like several books that the author divided this into. So I'm guessing that what we're going to be reading is going to be Act 1, and then after Act 2 there's going to be 3 more chapters that I'm guessing are the parts I don't know yet, the parts I haven't watched in the donghua. So I just counted the chapters, guys. I'm not reading anything. And then at the very back, we've got the same appendices again. I just leafed through them and they look more or less the same. Oh, commercial in the back for the scum villain self-saving system. Okay, this was mentioned. Don't worry, you don't have to advertise anything to me, I already have it. Oh, and also Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation adverts. Why are there adverts in my books? Well, I guess that's pretty normal, actually. And no more special art, the same sort of coloring and also the flower symbolism. This cover I voted as my absolute favorite cover when I first received all the paperbacks of TGCF. It is still an absolutely beautiful cover, and I think that for me personally, I love it as a follow-up for Volume 1 because of the promise of getting to reveal some of the secrets, some of the past things that have been going on, and I'm excited that they did this. Also, fucking Hualian he's just gorgeous. I can't help it. This cover was made for me specifically. And I do love how the colors are so much lighter, so much brighter, and there's like a lot of richness and happiness in this that is very different, again, from Volume 1, but at the same time, because you've already read Volume 1, this adds to the mystery or promise that, oh, we're gonna solve some things, we're gonna tell you some of these things that you've been hearing about. Is it still my absolute favorite of the covers? I think so. I think it's still one of my favorite covers, but actually the more I've been reading and holding on to Volume 1, I think Volume 1 has gained a lot more points in my head as well, especially for a first cover of a series. Big kudos to the artists behind these covers because they're absolutely gorgeous and they've done such a good job. Which again is such a plus to me because I'll be holding and admiring these covers while I read. Which is what we'll be doing right now. I had no good segue for this, I'm just so ready to get into it. So thank you guys for sticking with me so far, and now let's begin Volume 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Chapter 12. In the Palace of Divine Might, Crown Prince meets Crown Prince. Hualian knew this ring must have been left behind by Huachang. He held it in his hand and wondered for a moment, what could this be? When Hualian was still an esteemed crown prince, he grew up in the palace of Shanle. The kingdom of Shanle had always reveled in beautiful, precious objects. Collectors who held aesthetics above all else were abundant, and the palace itself was of course glorious and dazzling. Golden columns, jaded steps, innumerable treasures, and precious jewels. The noble children even played with colored gems as if they were toys. Hualian was thus familiar with the sight of riches, and from the look of this ring, it appeared to be made of diamond. That is exactly what I said. Yeah, it's not just crystal, it is absolutely diamonds. Which again, I think is a huge hint to the fact that yes, they are the ashes. So even if the object itself, the fact that Huachang has left something which Hualian doesn't trigger that for you, I think the fact that it is diamond, which is famously made of carbon, which is also what your ashes are. Everything else is burnt away, what remains is the carbon in you. So yes, this is a hint. Hualian wondering what could this be, and you may be piecing together that you know what a diamond is. But its shape was exquisite. Even the most skilled jeweler likely couldn't craft an equal to the ethereal natural beauty it emanated. Moreover, of all the diamonds he had seen, this stone was extraordinarily clear, shimmering like a crystal, fascinating and sublime. That scintillating luster made it difficult for him to determine exactly what kind of stone it could be. Still, even if he couldn't tell what the ring was made of, it was certainly an item of extreme significance. If it was found around his neck, then it had clearly not been accidentally dropped. It was most likely a gift from Hualian, a keepsake. Hualian was a little surprised to receive a memento like this, and he smiled softly. He resolved to take good care of it, and to ask the youth what the gift meant the next time they met. All he owned was this broken down shrine, and in it there was nowhere appropriate for him to hide treasure. After giving it some thought, he decided the best place to keep it was on his person, after all. And thus, Hualian fastened the silver chain around his neck once more. After running around Mount Yujun and Banyue Pass back to back, Hualian lay paralyzed in Puchi Shrine for a few days. If it wasn't for the kindness of some overly passionate villagers who came with offerings of buns and congee, he would have probably stayed incapacitated for many days more. Oh my gosh, it's such a mood, Hualian. Like, I can empathize. Teachers after summer vacation starts, out flat on my back, doing absolutely nothing. He spent his time thus until one day a sudden message arrived from Ling Wen: return to the heavens at once. Judging by her tone, something bad was about to go down. Hualian could guess more or less what it was and was already mentally prepared. Is this about Banyue Pass? That's right, Ling Wen replied. When you return to the heavens, come directly to the Palace of Divine Might. Upon hearing Palace of Divine Might, Hualian froze. Junwu was back. Since his third ascension, he hadn't yet seen Junwu. As the #1 martial god, Junwu spent his days deep in secluded cultivation or out patrolling the realms and keeping the world at peace. With his return, it looked as though Hualian wouldn't be able to get out of making this trip. And so, after only a few days of rest, he hiked up to the heavenly capital once more. The divine palaces of all manners of gods and immortals had been built in the heavenly capital, each with their own history and style. Together, they formed a great city. There were sculpted pillars and muraled buildings here, little bridges and streams there. There was a transcendent ambience in the air, and clouds diffused beneath one's feet. The heavenly court had a single main road, the Grand Avenue of Divine Might. Although there were many such roads built in honor of Junwu in the mortal realm, such mortal monuments were but a hollow mimicry of their true form in the heavens. Only this road in the heavenly court was the true Grand Avenue of Divine Might. Yeah, because Shanla also had a Grand Avenue of Divine Might, which is where the parade took place. Hualian walked on down the expansive road and headed toward the Palace of Divine Might. En route, there were many heavenly officials hurrying along, but not a single one dared acknowledge him. Truthfully, there were not many to begin with who would acknowledge him when he visited the heavenly court. However, not acknowledge meant no fellow officials would approach and walk with him or initiate any conversation, but they would still nod in greeting and give him basic due courtesy. But now they were pretending he wasn't there at all, as if a single glance at him would get them in trouble. If they were in front of him, they would hurry away. If they were behind him, they would slow their pace, leaving him a wide berth, desperately hoping his feet would carry him meters away from them. Yeah, because this is about the Banyue Pass. They know that Hualian is involved in this, and they don't want to be close to him. But, I feel like they were looking for a reason to do that anyway, so he doesn't have the best reputation, our boy. Completely undeserved. Hualian had gotten used to this sort of treatment long ago, so he didn't think anything of it. After all, he did just drag down the mighty newly ascended General Pei Jr., It would be strange if no one stayed away. Yet unexpectedly, as he walked, a voice suddenly called out from behind him. "Your Highness!" Hualian was amazed at the call and thought whoever had dared address him truly had commendable courage. But when he turned his head to look, the junior official that called for that highness rushed past him and ran towards someone farther ahead. Yeah, that junior official is the little man. Lang Chencho's little man. He called as he ran, "Honestly, Your Highness, how could you forget your identity medallion when heading to the Palace of Divine Might? How would you even get in?" Only then did it dawn on Hualian. Of course, the address Your Highness wasn't directed at him. There were quite a few crown princes in the heavens, so some confusion on this matter wasn't anything unusual. Yet when he glanced over and his eyes landed on the other crown prince, he paused. That young man had strong brows, bright eyes, and a wide smile. This smile was vastly different from those of many other heavenly officials. It was pure and sincere, and added an air of childlike innocence to his handsome face. Although, if a less charitable official like Mooching provided comment, they would probably call it an air of foolishness. Perhaps they were a little bit right. The young man was dressed in armor and looked exceptionally heroic. However, it didn't give him the air of a warrior of blood and battle. Rather, it gave him an air of royal nobility, candid and radiant. Hualian froze mid-step and stared at the young man. The two in front sensed his gaze and turned back to face him. When the junior official saw who it was, his face dropped immediately. Hualian lightly inclined his head and smiled at him. "Greetings, Your Highness." The other crown prince was obviously the type who didn't mind the everyday details and didn't recognize his face, so when he saw someone greeting him, he immediately returned the sentiment with a brilliant smile. He shouted back, "Greetings!" Lang Chencho, you're so cute. The junior official beside him gave him a subtle push. "Come on, Your Highness, let's go. We still need to get to the Palace of Divine Might." The young man, completely oblivious, could not understand why his subordinate would shove him so suddenly. He wondered aloud, "Why are you pushing me?" Hualian puffed out a laugh, and that junior official pushed even harder, urging, "The Emperor is probably already waiting for us. Please, let's go, Your Highness." The other crown prince could only give Hualian a confused look before turning to leave. Hualian stayed where he was as they walked away, and soon distant whispers from lower-ranking officials floated to his ears. "Well, that was awkward. The world is such a small place. There are both officials in the heavens. It was only a matter of time that they met. If you ask me, General Nanyang bumping into General Xuanzhen is a more exciting affair." What's the rush? They'll all be coming face to face soon. Everyone's gathering at the Palace of Divine Might, aren't they? Suddenly someone commented. "It's not just a small world. Take a look at those two. I don't like to make comparisons, but even though they're both crown princes, His Highness Tai Hua is truly noble. He would never do anything shameful like that, even if he fell from grace." I wonder what that is referring to. Is it the fight Hualian had with the emperor? Is that what we're referring to? The kingdom of Yong'an was more prosperous than the kingdom of Shanle, so of course the crown prince of Yong'an is stronger than that of Shanle. How the grass grows depends on the land it grew on. Simple logic. The martial god who watched over the north was Pei Ming of the Palace of Mingguang. The martial god of the west was Chuan Yizhen of the Palace of Qi Ying. Oh my gosh, we're getting. I should be writing this down, I feel. Let me finish the paragraph first. The martial god of the southeast was Fangxin and of the Palace of Nanyang, and the martial god of the southwest was Muqing of the Palace of Xuanzhen. And the martial god watching over the east was Lang Chencho of the Palace of Taihua. All the other palaces I kind of have memorized by now, but okay. The Palace of Chuan Yizhen is called Qi Ying, which I'm guessing is his title, his heavenly title, like Nanyang is Fangxin's title, Xuanzhen, Taihua. Qi Ying. Also forgot to show you guys that I picked a Hualian pen for today's episode because it's very Hualian heavy, I feel. And also it's been a while since I used him. He's so cute. When Lang Chen-cho was still mortal, he was a crown prince like Hualian. Not only that, he was the crown prince of Yong'an. The kingdom of Yong'an was the country that overtook Shanle after its fall, and the founder of Yong'an was the rebel general who successfully overthrew the imperial capital of Shanle. While Hualian drifted in the mortal realm, he had also visited the east, so naturally he knew that the crown prince of Yong'an had ascended. As heavenly officials, it was inevitable that they would run into each other, so he didn't think much of it. Those gossiping junior officials, while they were supposedly whispering, weren't particularly quiet. If their prattling had been about anyone else, they might have been more wary of being overheard. But since this was Hualian, they spoke without fear of him hearing. Perhaps they even found the prospect exciting. So Hualian pretended to have heard nothing and casually walked away. Honestly, these are junior officials, but yeah, they're no better than the actual heaven officials. The fact that we're learning here that they're not just like being loud because they're loud, they're literally maybe even doing it because it would be fun if Hualian overheard them shit-talking him, apparently. Just then, another voice came from behind and called out, "Your Highness!" Not again, Hualian thought, but this time, when he turned his head, it was someone who really was addressing him. Ling Wen, with dark circles and arms full of scrolls, approached him. "Everyone has gone to the Palace of Divine Might for the meeting. Be mindful once you reach the hall." Of course, Hualian was aware of the situation. "What do you think General Pei Jr.'s sentence will be?" "Exile, probably," Ling Wen replied. "That's actually not too bad, not too severe," Hualian thought. Exile was considered a temporary banishment for officials who had committed crimes, meaning the length of punishment was negotiable, and there might still be the opportunity to resume their duty. If they were found to be on their best behavior, they might one day get fished back up, maybe in 30 to 50 years, maybe in 100 or 200 years. But to Hualian, this not too bad was of course based on his own standards. To General Pei, it would be a completely different story. Yeah, so this is actually pretty mild as far as punishments go, because an exile is not the same as a banishment. So as long as they kind of mentioned in the Donghua as well, as long as Pei Shuo manages to hold on to some believers, he can still resume his duties once his exile is over. Which again goes to show how little this means. Xuanji killed only a fraction of this amount of people, led a fraction of this amount of people into their deaths. But Pei Shuo is a god. And I think this is very much on purpose. Again, ever since we started this series, we had kind of this notion, especially in season 2, that heaven is grey. There is a lot of grey going on here. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we're going to end up fighting people in heaven at some point. Or even have the emperor turn out to be, like, a bad apple. As in, like, the ways the heaven is operating is actually worse. Like, obviously, there are heavenly officials who are trying to do good. And all heavenly officials are dependent on believers. They need believers in order to survive. But I feel like there are definitely differences here between gods who do good because they need to survive and they enjoy being gods, and gods who do good because they actually believe in doing good. As for what exactly the emperor is, don't know yet. But we are learning that he is usually away for a lot of the time to have his little training arcs, to stay on top of his cultivation thing, or to patrol the world, I suppose. But yes, I also like that we're mentioning here to General Pei, it would be a completely different story, kind of building up under my idea that, yeah, this is a huge blow to the Palace of Mingguang, who has already suffered another blow just prior to this. And I bet that the other heavenly officials are having a field day with this. Because how trustworthy is the Palace of Mingguang if the big man himself has all this dirty laundry that is so easily dug out? And also the other god of Mingguang was involved in unsavory conduct. And the fact that Hualian was involved in unearthing both these things, like, it really looks like Hualian ascended just to start targeting Pei Ming, though we of course know it's completely coincidental. Hualian remembered another thing. Oh yeah, Ling Wen. How goes the search for the boy with the human face disease from Mount Yujin, the one I told you about last time? Do you have any news? I'm very sorry, Your Highness. I don't have anything at the moment. We'll work harder on it, Ling Wen replied. Even for a heavenly official, finding a single person in such a vast world was not an easy task. Although the heavens might make faster work of it than mortals, it was still more like 10 years for the mortal realm versus 1 year for the heavens. Hualian thus said, "Thank you for your hard work." By this point, they reached the end of the avenue and a majestic palace came into view before them. The palace had stood through the ages, yet it showed only enduring excellence and none of its antiquity. Interwoven glazed tiles adorned the golden roof, layer upon layer, blinding in their scintillation. Hualian looked up and glanced at where Palace of Divine Might was written beneath the golden roof. The characters, written with power and with vigor, were exactly the same as they were centuries ago, unchanged. He lowered his head and stepped into the hall. Within, numerous heavenly officials had already gathered, either in groups of 2 or 3 or by their lonesome, standing in silence. The only ones permitted to enter this hall were heavenly officials who had officially ascended, all imperial sons of heaven or indomitable overlords, each bursting with spiritual might. They eyed each other in silent pride and judgment, their splendor overwhelming. Gathered here at this time and place, everyone held their breaths and did not dare utter a sound. Upon the throne, at the very end of the hall, there sat a martial god clad in white armor. This martial god had a handsome face, and with his eyes closed and his lips unspeaking, he appeared extremely poised and solemn. Behind him stood the expanse of the magnificent palace of divine might, and beneath his feet were pure white, snowy peaks. As if sensing that Hualian had entered the hall, he opened his eyes. Those eyes were obsidian black but bright and clear, as if formed by the melted snow of a lake that had been frozen for millions of years. As he blinked them open, the martial god smiled softly. Shanle, you have come. Yes, sir, Sky Daddy is home.
Sky.
Daddy's home for me.
Yeah, welcome Junwoo to the novel universe. We've been expecting you. Hualian inclined his head in a respectful bow and said nothing. When Junwoo spoke, he was not loud, but his deep voice echoed through the entire palace of divine might. All the eyes of the gathered officials focused on Hualian, and he understood immediately. It appeared that this meeting wasn't for discussing General Pei Jr. and the Bonnier Pass scandal. The spotlight, it seemed, was on him. Ling Wen approached the throne, dressed all in black and not sparing a word or smile. She drew a line through an item in the book she was holding. My lord, there are a few heavenly officials still on patrol in the mortal realm, unable to return. Junwoo nodded. They have given their notice ahead of time. Ling Wen acknowledged the response and Junwoo turned to Hualian once more. Shanle, I am sure you're aware as to why you have been summoned here today. Hualian still had his head bowed. I can guess. However, I had actually assumed that a decision had been made on the matter with General Pei Jr. Just then, a lyrical male voice filled out from behind. How that matter will be decided is still hard to say. When Hualian turned his head to look, a martial god stepped into the hall. His hand resting on the hilt of his sword, he walked towards the front. When he passed by Hualian, he stopped in his step, and the corners of his lips lifted. Your Highness, I have heard so much about you. Here he is. The martial god looked to be about 26 or 27 years old, graceful in his demeanor, but absolute in his actions. Looking at his face, Hualian thought he was even more attractive than the statue he'd seen at Mount Yujin. Well done. It was the kind of handsomeness that could steal hearts, very much the charming type. Hualian didn't respond. He continued. Our little Pei has certainly been in your care. I've definitely offended him, Hualian thought. He returned the greeting. You flattered me. I've heard more about you, General Pei. The words, I've heard more about you, were certainly not a lie. In the past few days, Hualian had skimmed through his scroll and briefly read the legends of some of the more famous heavenly officials. Among them was General Mingguang Pei Ming. This martial god of the north was skilled in battle, but the subject the mortals talked of with the most relish was his many amorous intrigues, the beautiful and the ugly, the stories left behind in wanton alleys. Beautiful stories had Pei Ming spent extravagant amounts of gold to save a famed yet pitiful escort from the brothels, prompting her to fall in love with him and henceforth remain pure and true to await his return. Ugly stories had Pei Ming travel 1,000 miles for a one-night stand with a married woman, etc., and so on. On some level, Pei Ming was an awe-inspiring man. After reading through his stories, Hualian thought it was quite unbelievable that after so many years, only one Xuanji had been created from this way of life. Oh my gosh, Hualian, that's so fucking funny. Because Pei Ming was accomplished in both battle and in love, his rivals and peers alike took great pleasure in cursing him to die. Even better if he'd die from syphilis. But his fate was tough and relentless, and he never caught anything from the many flowers he'd plucked. He wouldn't die, and he'd even live longer than most of his peers, until finally one day, he lost a battle. Everyone laughed, thinking, at last he's met his end. But then lightning crashed and thunder roared, and in that moment of imminent peril, he ascended to the heavens. Those who hadn't already died by his hand probably all died of outrage. After ascension, Pei Ming didn't change his way of life, and the scale of his tales and promiscuity only grew. From fairies and lady heavenly officials to female ghosts and demons, as long as they were beautiful, he would not hold back. Nonetheless, the charming ladies of the mortal realm still remained his favorite type. Many indecent love stories had him staring as the main male lead, and if it wasn't for Hualian's method of cultivation that demanded purity of body and mind, he probably would have read a few of those books just out of curiosity. Are you saying you don't read porn, Hualian? Okay, I think that's fine. Sandang might have studied enough for both of you. Thus, in addition to his role as the martial god that ruled the north, the mortal realm also worshipped him as the god of love. He's no Aphrodite, but honestly... Even a number of heavenly officials would turn around and secretly pray to him should they bump into him in the heavens, hoping for some fortune in love. It had to be said that, although similar in sentiment, such a title was definitely more fortunate than Fangxin's unwarranted title of tremendous masculinity. All the heavenly officials present in the hall were well aware of what both of those "I've heard so much about you" comments meant, and many roared with laughter in their heads. After such pleasantries, Hualian said, "What does General Pei mean by hard to say?" What was that about again? Oh yeah, how that matter will be decided because he has new evidence that he's gonna bring into the hall. Pei Ming snapped his fingers and a corpse suddenly appeared in the middle of the great hall, floating in midair. Strictly speaking, this body was just a shell. It had no primordial spirit, completely empty on the inside, but it was covered in blood from head to toe, so by any practical measure, it was no different from a corpse. It had a handsome face, but its eyes were firmly shut. It was indeed Ardao, or rather, General Pei Jr.'s clone. To have such a thing appear so suddenly before an elegant crowd of heavenly officials inside the Palace of Divine Might was startling. A moment later, Pei Shaw was also brought in, but he still looked indifferent and apathetic, even with shackles binding him. His head was bowed low, and he was silent. "General Pei, what's the meaning of this?" Hualian asked. Pei Shaw knelt down within the Palace of Divine Might, and Pei Ming replied. "During Little Pei's interrogation, he mentioned something I found quite curious." Pei Ming paced halfway around Hualian and smiled. "I'm quite familiar with Little Pei's ability. Even if this clone's powers are reduced and nowhere near the level of his true self, it's still quite competent and capable of fighting evenly with a wrath ghost. However, he told me that he was surprised to meet a mortal who was so strong that Little Pei was unable to even withstand his attacks. Now isn't that curious?" Pei Ming continued. "And so I pressed for answers. As it turned out, at the time, there was a red-clothed young man beside your highness while you were at Banyu Pass." Hearing the words red-clothed made all the officials present shift expressions, and they all appeared uncomfortable. But Pei Ming's next statement made them completely agitated. "And this young man in the dark was able to eradicate every Banyu soldier turned wrath in a flash. Now, your highness, might you enlighten us as to who this red-clothed young man might be? If it wasn't a wrath, then it must be a supreme. A supreme that could kill hundreds of wraths in a flash, a supreme dressed all in red. Anyone could guess who that young man probably was, yet no one wanted to be the first to say the name." Hualian cast a glance at the silent Pei Shaw and replied a little unnaturally. "Really? I don't remember it very well. There was a caravan trapped in Banyu Pass at the time, and we spent a few days together. Maybe it was someone from the caravan." "That can't be right, your highness," Pei Ming said. "According to Little Pei, you and that young man were unusually close. Not like someone you'd just met or had only known for a few days. How can you not recall such a thing?" Well, they really had only known each other for a few days. Yeah, as Hualian thinks next. "No, you're wrong, that was the truth. It really was only a few days," Hualian thought. Nevertheless, his face gave nothing away. Just then, from the sidelines, a white-clad cultivator casually waved his whisk and spoke up. Yeah, we know who this is. "General Pei, you've only heard Little Pei's side of the story. Little Pei has committed a crime, and he's currently in detention, soon to be exiled. Whether his words are believable is still hard to say, no? Then we shall see if General Nanyang and General Xuanzhen can assist us," Pei Ming replied. Following his line of sight, Hualian found Fangxin and Muqing standing separately in the southwest and southeast corners of the hall. Fangxin still looked the same as in his memories, tall as always, standing extremely... Yeah, this is... I just realized that this is the first time Hualian is actually seeing Fangxin and Muqing, because before that he's only heard their voices in the spiritual array, communication array. So yeah, this is actually new. This is new. Fangxin still looked the same as in his memories, tall as always, standing extremely straight, his eyes determined, and his brow forever slightly furrowed. It made it seem that there was always something irritating him, but really, he wasn't irritated at all. Ancient China's resting bitch face. Muqing, on the other hand, was somewhat different from what he remembered. His face was still pale without much redness, and his lips still thin and pursed. His eyes half-lidded. However, there was an aloof air surrounding him, one that clearly indicated he was interested in neither conversation nor the dispensing of compliments. He stood with his arms crossed, a finger on his right hand, tapping his left elbow softly. It was hard to tell if he was at ease or if he was scheming something. While the two were considered good-looking men, each had their own flaws. Hearing Pei Ming call them out, they both looked towards John Woo at the same time. It was only when Zhongwu gave a slight nod that they reluctantly stepped forward. This was the first time since Hualian's third ascension that he'd come face to face with the two of them. He could sense all the eyes upon them going wild with excitement. Yeah, because this is just a show to everyone else. But yes, he would definitely have that again. That mooching definitely is the one who changed the most between the two of them. Which makes me a little excited to learn more about what he was like in the flashbacks that we'll be getting to. Wild was inevitable. It must be known that the Palace of Divine Might was the #1 martial palace of heaven, and those without the title of heavenly official had no right to enter or attend court. The first time the Crown Prince of Shanle ascended, Fangxin and Muqing were his deputy generals. At the time, they were only low-ranking officials from the middle court, without even the right to scrub the floors of the Palace of Divine Might. And now, not only could these former junior officials stand openly in the palace's hall, but their ranks were even higher than that of their former master. What a turn of fate! How times had changed. The three of them looked at each other, eyes flitting all over, stealing glimpses at one another, but swiftly turning away and pretending not to care. Who knew what the other two were thinking? However, Hualian had pretty much figured out why Pei Ming had called them out to help. As suspected, Pei Ming said, "General Nanyang and General Xuanzhen have both fought Huachang before. I'm sure they can speak with authority regarding the weapon used by that person. So the point of bringing forth the empty shell Ajao was for the court to inspect its wounds." Fangxin and Muqing slowly approached the floating body. Hualian himself took a few steps forward to take a look, but it was splotched with so much dark blood that it was hard to discern anything. The other two, faces austere, took their time in their inspection. Finally, they raised their heads and swept a look at each other, seeming like neither of them wanted to speak first. Ling Wen prompted from next to the throne, "Generals, your conclusion?" It was Fangxin who spoke first, his voice dark. "It's him. The scimitar Ming," Muqing added. Hualian was probably the only one among the heavenly officials present at the Palace of Divine Might who didn't know the significance of those words. Ming name drop, let's fucking go. The scimitar Ming was the very same freakish weapon Huachang had used when he challenged those 33 officials and single-handedly beat them to a pulp, annihilating their soul and dignity both. Inside the Palace of Divine Might, the heavenly officials started whispering to each other, unreadable eyes watching Hualian. "Many thanks to the two generals for confirming this fact, which verified my conjecture," Pei Ming said. "If the red-clothed young man who traveled next to your highness really was that person, then this matter is considerably more complicated." Stirring the pot, stirring the pot. The white-clad cultivator from before spoke up again. "General Pei, do you truly mean to imply that His Highness colluded with the Supreme Ghost King to frame General Pei Jr.? Both times that cultivator spoke, he was on Hualian's side, so Hualian had to see who exactly this curious fellow cultivator was. What he saw was a person with clear, bright eyes. He wore a white jaded belt, held a whisk in his arms, and had a long sword carried on his back, with a folding fan tucked at his waist. Oh, come on, like, fan, whisk. I guess the gender thing kind of could throw you off a little bit. But this combined with the drop from Nonfang in chapter 10 about never having seen them in this form before. Like, there are too many coincidences. Like, I even think the Donghua almost made it harder for us because Windmaster's color scheme is kind of different in their male form compared to their female form. Like, come on. His form was graceful and elegant, his expression spirited, and while he did look familiar, Hualian couldn't recall where he had met a friend such as this. Familiar, there you go, your next clue, your next hint. Pei Ming also gave the man a look, appearing like an annoyed elder who didn't want to deal with children. He shook his head and waved dismissively, dispersing the floating, empty shell that was Ardo, then turned around and continued his argument. It may be no collusion. That person is powerful and wicked. Who knows what deceptive tricks he might have used to blind his highness? Pei Ming intended to pin all the chaos at Banyu Pass on Hua Chang. Hualian rebuked him. General Pei, even if you won't believe me, you should still believe in Lord Windmaster. General Pei Jr. admitted to the crime of luring passerby to Banyu Pass with his clone, and Lord Windmaster heard everything. Pei Ming glanced at the white-clad cultivator again. Hualian continued. Besides, since we're both here at the Palace of Divine Might, you can simply ask the Emperor whether there are traces of any spells of deception cast on me. Junwu, who sat high above, remained calm and unchanging. That meant Hualian was absolved. Hualian then continued. General Pei, let's keep things clear and separate. Let's not talk about whether the young man I traveled with was Hua Chang or not. At the very least, even if he was indeed Hua Chang, that has nothing to do with what General Pei Jr. has done. A Supreme Ghost King might have the worst possible name on people's tongues, but not everything can be blamed on him. Well spoken, well defended. Hualian, you might want to join up with our legal team as well when you're not on the defendant's side of it. Hualian's own expression was composed and neutral when he uttered that name, but many in the hall felt cold shivers run down their backs. I love how just the name Hua Chang is like... It's like Sauron. He who must not be named. Pei Ming replied, Regardless, I believe this case needs to be re-examined. It would be best if the state preceptor of Banyu that your highness has taken could be brought in for interrogation too. To interrogate her for what? Torture her to confess a lie? Hualian hadn't yet responded when someone else spoke up. Pei Shaw looked as if he didn't want to remain in the Palace of Divine Might a moment longer. He said in a low voice, General, let it go. What? Pei Ming was irritated. There isn't any spell of deception. This is all my doing. I've disappointed you, sir. Pei Shaw confessed. Pei Ming was right in the middle of clearing his name when Pei Shaw said this. Pei Ming turned cold and he said darkly, What bewitching concoction did that state preceptor of Banyu feed you? Shut your mouth. However, Pei Shaw raised his head. Let it go, General. Little Pei isn't afraid to admit to things he's done. Since I've been caught red-handed, I'm prepared to receive any punishment that is handed down. Pei Ming's face was written with shock, and it clearly read as, You've always been so sensible, so why did you suddenly go nuts today? He was about to kick some sense back into Pei Shaw when Junwu spoke. Enough! The moment that word was said, Pei Ming withdrew his leg and bowed. Thus spoke Junwu. The case of the Banyu Pass is settled. Take little Pei away. He is to be exiled in a few days' time. After some silence, Pei Ming acknowledged. Yes, my lord. Hualian had only just breathed in relief when Pei Ming continued. But Nanyang and Xuan Zhen. That's another Xuan. It would be so fucking funny if Mooching was secretly Blackwater. But also, I don't think he would be as scared of Hua Chang if he was. Like, there are too many story elements going against that idea now. Like, the fact that he doesn't know that Qirong is Qirong, that he is scared shitless of Hua Chang, doesn't have the powers to measure up, etc., etc. Yeah, it just caught me off guard while I was reading anyway. But Nanyang and Xuanzhen have proven that the wounds on that empty shell were indeed inflicted by the scimitar Ming. I understand, Junwu replied. That is a whole other matter. Pray my lord will look into it, Pei Ming said. I will investigate, naturally. There is no need for concern. After a pause, Junwu continued. You are all dismissed for today. Shanle, you stay. It looked like Hualian would be personally interrogated. The heavenly officials had nothing left to say and bowed. Yes, my lord. Having been dismissed, the other heavenly officials exited in their groups of 2 or 3. When Fangxin passed by, he glanced at Hualian, looking like he had something to say, but he stopped himself. Hualian smiled at him, and he looked startled before hurriedly leaving after all. Mooching, on the other hand, walked past without sparing a look, as if Hualian didn't exist. And yet, he deliberately took a path to pass in front of him. As for the white-clad cultivator, he walked over with his whisk in his hand and a huge smile, ready to speak, but Pei Ming, who had just suffered a setback, walked over too, with one hand resting on his hilt and the other rubbing his nose. He said helplessly, "Qingxuan, for your older brother's sake, can you stop stirring up trouble?" The smile disappeared from the face of the white-clad cultivator. "General Pei, there's no need to use my brother against me. I'm not afraid of him." "You..." Pei Ming seemed to be gritting his teeth in impotent rage, unable to do anything about this. Finally, he pointed at the other cultivator. You've really done in little Pei this time. 200 years of exile." Oh shit. 200? Okay, that's a long time. Though they did say it could be renegotiated, you know. The white-clad cultivator swung his whisk wildly. "That's little Pei's own doing. This has nothing to do with me." Looking like he didn't want to continue this quarrel with Pei Ming, the white-clad cultivator flounced off. Hualian thought Pei Ming might stick around to taunt him further, but he didn't, and simply exited the hall directly. Yeah, like, I think Hualian is like, well, heavenly officials do be like that, so he's kind of expecting Pei Ming to do it as well. But I still remember that Hua Chang's opinion of General Pei is actually that he wouldn't stoop to those levels. And like I've been saying in some of my Donghua analysis videos, I think that what Hua Chang is saying is actually a narrative device as well. Like, his opinion on things isn't, of course, always correct, but I think when he is giving us information about characters, I think that's important to pay attention to. Like the fact that the first thing we ever hear him say about Zhenwu is that he must hate Hualian because he banished him twice. And I think that although Hualian is a bit like, well, there are reasons to this, I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, I do think that Zhenwu is severely disappointed with whatever Hualian has been up to for the last 800 years. And I think that if he makes more mistakes, so to speak, like, I think that disappointment will definitely flare up again. Like, he is spending a lot of time in season 2 kind of trying to be, you know, Shanle, let's forget the past. Let's walk through this field of daisies, because you're the only one I can trust now. Well, honestly, I think it might be a little bit of foreshadowing, basically. That Hualian is going to make choices that Sky Daaaddy is not going to be happy about. In the large and spacious Palace of Divine Might, the only one left besides Zhenwu on his throne and Hualian standing below him was, surprisingly, the Crown Prince of Yong'an, Long Chencho. Hualian thought that was strange. Why did he stay? When Hualian approached, he saw that the man had his eyes closed and that he was somehow fast asleep on his feet. Hualian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. First laugh or cry of Volume 2, guys. Hualian didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and feeling quite awed, he gently tapped the young man's shoulder. Your Highness? Your Highness? Long Chencho jolted awake. Oh, what happened? Nothing's happened. The meeting is over, Hualian explained. Having just woken up, Long Chencho was still a little dazed, and he asked in confusion, Over? Just like that? What did we all discuss? I didn't hear anything. If you didn't hear anything, don't worry about it, Hualian said. It wasn't anything important anyway. Come now, time to go back. Oh! Long Chencho went to leave. But when he reached the doors, he looked behind him, still confused. He nevertheless flashed Hualian a big smile. Thanks for waking me! Oh my god! Hualian waved at him with a cheerful grin. With everyone now finally cleared out, Hualian slowly turned around. Okay, so we're getting to the Zhenwu scene, the Zhenwu part. But again, like Hualian not knowing whether to laugh or cry when discovering that Long Chencho was asleep in a very, very important meeting, because, you know, he's a big shot heaven official now. It's so funny because he's had to wake him up, you know, when he was his teacher, his state preceptor. God, I love this. Junwoo descended from the throne, hands clasped behind his back. He came before Hualian. Crimson rain sought flower, the scimitar erming. Hualian was like a cat picked up by the scruff of his neck, and he involuntarily straightened. So, what is going on? Junwoo questioned. Hualian looked at him, then suddenly kneeled. Before Hualian's knees touched the floor, Junwoo reached out and held his elbow, preventing him from kneeling. He sighed. Shanle. Hualian straightened once more, his head bowed. I'm sorry. Junwoo watched him. Are you acknowledging your wrongs? I am, Hualian replied. Then why not tell me what wrong you are acknowledging? Junwoo said. Hualian was silent, and Junwoo shook his head. I did not think you would know. The Heavenly Emperor inclined his head, gesturing for Hualian to follow, and the two walked slowly toward the chamber behind the hall. As they walked, Junwoo, with his hands clasped in front, commented, Shanle is all grown up now. Naturally, Hualian didn't dare answer that comment. Junwoo continued. 800 years ago, when I sent you down, I told you to keep in periodic communication with me, so you would not have to roll in the mud all by yourself. But once you left, there was not a word from you for 800 years. And all the while, you unnecessarily tormented yourself down below. You've been ascended for some time now, but not once have you reported to the Palace of Divine Might. If anyone else was this impertinent, the Palace of Lingwen would have censored them directly. Of course, Hualian's I'm sorry earlier wasn't directed to this matter, and Junwoo was aware of this also. He added, if your apology was for those few sword attacks, then let it go. You said it yourself. All is forgotten after a stabbing. Hualian smiled wryly. How could I forget? Then look to the future, Junwoo replied quietly. There is still much we need you for. Hualian rubbed his forehead. Shanle is but a lowly scrappy mortal without power. There's no need for me. I only hope not to be a burden. Why depreciate yourself so? Did you not perform splendidly in these last two cases? Junwoo said. Except I may have offended General Pei, Hualian sighed ruefully. Mingguang is fine. I will keep an eye on him. You do not need to worry. However, Junwoo turned around. Tell me, what kind of extraordinary character did you engage with when you descended this time? Hualian raised his hand. My lord, I swear I did nothing. Just one day by chance I encountered an interesting young man on the road and we spent some time together. I didn't think much of it. Junwoo nodded. Chance encounter, young man, supreme ghost king. Shanle, surely you are aware that what the consequences would be if Mingguang were to question you further and you confessed it to this in front of the other officials. No one would believe you. Shanle knows, Hualian replied woefully. So I am grateful for my lord's timely intervention. My lord, you're not actually going to interrogate me, are you? I wouldn't collude with the Ghost Realm. These are absurd concerns. Naturally, I know you would not intentionally collude with the Ghost Realm, Junwoo said. I am grateful for my lord's trust, Hualian replied. However, with things thus, it may no longer be appropriate to send you to investigate an urgent matter that I have on hand. What is it? Hualian inquired. At this time, the two of them reached the chamber behind the Great Hall, separated from the main hall by a large mural. The front depicted a golden palace towering above a sea of clouds, radiant and brilliant. The back of the mural was another view, depicting mountains and valleys spanning over an enormous distance. Gazing over the expanse of the painting, one could see many tiny pearls embedded on this giant map, glinting like stars. Each one of those pearls embedded on the map represented the location of a temple of divine might built in the mortal realm. Okay. Oh, art! Surprise art. I didn't even see this coming. We've got art of Junwoo and Hualian here in the Palace of Divine Might. This is a neat design as well. It doesn't have too many things that makes it stand out too much. Like if you showed me this picture and didn't tell me what it was, I think it would be hard for me to place just which heavenly official John Woo is supposed to be. However, his whole like swing up in a bun thing next to Hualian and his little hair bun thing, that they do give us father-son vibes, I have to say. The pauldrons are so cool though. More sensical than the Donghua design, though I have to say the Donghua design was quite impactful with the one pauldron. But again, this seems more realistic in a sense. I do love that we have different interpretations of the characters though in the different designs. 800 years earlier, when John Woo brought the newly ascended Hualian to these inner halls, the twinkling stars on the mural weren't as dense, but now the shimmering jewels seemed to fill one's vision, overwhelming in their radiance. Okay, so he has become even more powerful over the last 800 years. Remember again, he's like one of the oldest gods at the moment as well. John Woo stood before the mural and pointed at a place in the east. 7 days ago, many saw with their own eyes a dragon of fire suddenly soaring into the sky from the deep mountains in this area. Hualian's face grew serious. John Woo, with one hand behind his back, used the other to softly rap on a place on the mural. The dragon of fire lasted for 2 instants' time before burning out. In that time, many witnessed the sight, but not a single person was injured. Do you know what that means? The spell of the ascending fire dragon emits intense flames that do not harm, but can be seen by many due to the vast expanse of its display. It's a call for help, Hualian replied. Correct. It was a distress signal, and it came from a heavenly official, John Woo said. And it's no ordinary call for help, it's one of desperation, Hualian added. The flames of the ascending fire dragon spell were extremely intense, and needed to be strictly controlled to avoid causing any harm. Those strict controls would most assuredly drain an immense amount of heavenly official spiritual power. If the casting official was not careful, their powers could likely backfire, and they would destroy themselves in the process. Unless they were absolutely desperate, very few heavenly officials would take such a risk. A sighting of this nature meant that a heavenly official had fallen into grave peril with no other option left. Are there any officials whose whereabouts are currently unknown? Hualian asked. The Banyu Pass case was not the only reason all officials were summoned back to court. The main purpose was to use this chance to investigate everyone's whereabouts, aside from those who usually do not show, like the Rainmaster and the Earthmaster. Even those who couldn't make it back reported in. Hualian contemplated for a while, then speculated. Maybe it wasn't any of the officials from this term. Maybe it's one of the retired officials. Again, retired officials, we haven't encountered any yet, but they might turn out to be important at a later date. If that is the case, then I'm afraid our search parameters will need to expand. Many retired officials lost contact with the heavens long ago. It would be impossible to deduce who could be the one in peril, John Woo said. So, this was probably why Ling Wen and many of the civil officials had dark circles under their eyes and walked with such weak steps. They were working constantly on this case. No wonder they couldn't break away to investigate the whereabouts of that boy with the human face disease from Mount Yujun. Hualian asked, to corner a heavenly official to the point where they will use such a self-destructive spell, there must be a great evil at work. Are there any demonic gatherings or lairs in that area? There are, John Woo replied, and very close by. Do you know of Ghost City? Hualian thought about it and replied, I've heard of it. Ghost City was the most prosperous place within the ghost realm, situated right at the crossroads of the mortal and the ghost realms. It was where all manner of ghosts gathered in swarms to conduct trade and exchange, and it was complete pandemonium. Some cultivators of a certain skill level would venture there to do business or seek information. Sometimes there would even be heavenly officials in disguise touring the city for curiosity's sake or other unspeakable reasons. Once in a while, there would also be those who'd entered by mistake, and they would either be eaten alive or scared half to death. Since ancient times, although not as ancient as Hualian, there had always been many tales of Ghost City in the mortal realm, establishing that Ghost City did not exist before after Hualian's ascension in time. Hualian remembered one of the stories had a man traveling at night who saw a bustling market before him decked out with large red lanterns and colorful signs. He entered the market in high spirits but found that everyone around him wore a mask, and if they were not cloaked as such, then they were extremely ugly, very curious. He didn't think deeply on it and brought a bowl of noodles and sat down to eat, but as he dug into his food and ate, the food didn't feel right. When he looked closely, the noodles were actually squirming strands of hair. Hualian brought himself back to the present and Junwoo continued. So Hualian has heard about Ghost City, like a lot of tales about Ghost City before. Gosh, I already know, like I wonder if we discussed this at some point, I've just forgotten, but I already know that there are so many alternative meeting stories out there. Like, there's gotta be like a gazillion fanfiction of Hualian wandering into Ghost City by accident and almost eating noodle hair, though I'm sure he's always saved by timely intervention. After that pillar of fire appeared, I immediately sent officials to investigate the area, but there was no evidence of anything, so it is very possible that they moved to Ghost City. However, the Heavenly Realm and the Ghost Realm have always drawn very clear borders, and without enough proof, we cannot intrude on Ghost City, which is why I need someone to descend in secret this time and investigate. We can't alert the enemy and have them move again, Hualian said. Is that why this couldn't be discussed openly at the Great Hall with everyone? To prevent information leaks? Correct, Junwoo replied. Then, my lord, pray give Shanlei your command. You were the first candidate I originally had in mind, Junwoo said. But for this, it may be inconvenient for you to go. How could it be inconvenient? Hualian asked. First, the east is guarded by Long Chencho. If you should go, you would have to cooperate with him, Junwoo said. Hualian responded. That would not be a problem. Please rest assured. Second, Junwoo continued, do you know in whose territory Ghost City is seated? Hualian was slightly taken aback. Is it Huachang? Junwoo nodded slowly, and Hualian's guess was confirmed. But then something else came to mind. That distressed pillar of fire blazed up 7 days ago. Coincidentally, it was 7 days ago when Huachang left Puchi Shrine. The timing was too perfect. Could there be a connection between the two events? It would seem you have a rather good relationship with him, which is fine, Junwoo said. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether he is involved. If this makes it awkward for you, then do not force yourself. If you have any other suggestions or anyone you would nominate, do let me know. However, Hualian still said, Let me go. I don't think Crimson Rain Salt Flower is a disingenuous person. Junwoo looked at him. Shanle, I know you are very capable and know what you are doing. However, I also know that you always think the best of everyone. Condescending little shit. Hualian gave a small smile at his words. Please don't say it like I'm a little princess who has never left home. Those words really don't suit me anymore. Junwoo shook his head. I should not comment on the friends you make, but I will still say this. Be careful of Huachang. Hearing this, Hualian bowed his head slightly, keeping his eyes down and saying nothing. He should have responded with, Yes, my lord, and he should have been able to say yes with ease by that point. Yet, for some reason, he really didn't want to say that particular yes. Gosh, I enjoyed this little detail actually. Be especially careful of that wicked blade of his, Junwoo added. What do you mean? Hualian asked. The scimitar Ming is a cursed blade, a blade of misfortune. To forge such an evil weapon would require terrifyingly cruel sacrifice and bloody determination. Do not touch it, and do not let it touch you either. If you do, the consequences will be unimaginable, Junwoo replied. I mean, yeah, he was right about the consequences being, unimaginable. I don't think Hualian imagined that, this is what was gonna happen. that he'd gain a little puppy follower, a little puppy sword. Hualian couldn't tell where this sudden surge of confidence came from, but inwardly he thought, Sandang probably wouldn't strike at me with a blade. That's foreshadowing too, shit. I mean, he wouldn't, not intentionally. Still, he responded. Shandla understands. Junwoo nodded. I will of course be at ease knowing that you have taken this case. Since this does not make things awkward for you, then it is ideal. Nonetheless, going on this mission alone may be too much. Are there any officials you would like to join you? It doesn't matter, Hualian said, after some thought. But preferably someone easy to get along with. It'd be best if they're powerful too, so they can lend me some spiritual power sometimes. Spiritual energy is like stuck in my head after the Donghua. Junwoo smiled. You disqualified both Nanyang and Xuanzhen with the first condition. That was true. No one could say that Fangxin and Muqing of today were personalities that were easy to get along with. Hualian started chuckling too. How are things between the three of you? Have you spoken with them yet? Junwoo asked. The Heavenly Emperor himself never entered the communication array, and thus was naturally unaware of the buzzing chit-chat that went on among the officials. Seriously, he's never in there? Come on, he must have someone who filters like the important shit to him. Like Ling Wen, I guess. Ling Wen would tell him the important stuff. We spoke a few words, Hualian replied. It's been so many years, and yet you have only spoken a few words, Junwoo inquired. Ah, yes. I heard that when you ascended this time, you destroyed many of your fellow officials' palaces, one of which was Nanyang's. Hualian argued back. I paid back the debt, all 8,880,000 merits. And for this, I need to thank my lord for giving me the opportunity to go to Mount Yujun. Thank Nanyang, Junwoo replied. I heard Ling Wen say it was he who privately approached her and said there was no need for you to pay back the reconstruction costs. Hualian was stunned. I didn't know about this at all. No wonder those 8,880,000 merits were so easily repaid if it turned out that so much of it had already been intentionally forgiven. Yet at the time, it was the Palace of Nanyang that suffered the most damage. He'd been told half of the golden roof had collapsed. Yeah, we knew this. There were hints about this in the Donghua quite early on, and the confirmation did come in this conversation. But I think that we were given fewer hints about it in the book. So this is a surprising little twist. Though not one easily predicted, I suppose that Nanyang, Fangxin's personality and the fact that he's, once again showing up for Hualian's sake, it's telling, but this could have been like a surprise for a lot of first-time readers, I think. And it would make you perceive Fangxin in a better light as well. As in brownie points for Fangxin, I suppose. Nanyang made sure Ling Wen would not tell you, so you were naturally unaware. Since he did not want you to know, it would be best to continue feigning ignorance, Junwoo said. Hualian didn't know how to feel about this. Complicated and bittersweet feelings clouded his mind, and his thoughts scattered all over the place. Finally, he only sighed soundlessly and thought, truly, in this world, the words "don't tell anyone" are empty. Junwoo contemplated for a moment, then asked once more, if Nanyang and Xuanzhen will not do, how about the Windmaster? Hualian pondered the option. Lord Windmaster is a very good person, but I don't know if she would want to go on this mission with me. The Windmaster is powerful, Junwoo said. A lively person who enjoys making friends and thus matches your first condition, of easy to get along with. When reporting in with me, the Windmaster also spoke well of you. I think you two will be fine. If you do not have any other questions, then descend with the Windmaster and go forth to investigate Ghost City. Also, yes? Junwoo said unhurriedly. Work hard, but do not force yourself. Hualian was startled by those words. A moment later, he smiled. What is my lord saying? I'm not forcing myself. Junwoo patted Hualian's shoulder. Return to the palace of Shanle to rest for now. I will send word to summon the Windmaster. Hualian blinked. I don't have enough merits, so no palace has been erected. The Palace of Chandler from the past has long since been torn down, so what Palace of Chandler? I have granted you a new one, Junwoo said. You cannot possibly always cram yourself into that decrepit little shrine. Hualian left the Palace of Divine Might and was led to the Palace of Chandler by a junior official from Junwoo's palace. This Palace of Chandler was very nearly an exact copy of the one he had in the past. Glazed tiles with red walls, sumptuous and elegant. He stood outside the palace gates for a long time, but not a shred of desire to enter came to him. The scrappy mortal was still best suited to a scrapped shrine, after all. A proud and glamorous heavenly palace like this wasn't a place he could stay. He loitered outside the entrance and waited for Lord Windmaster to come find him, but after a while, the one who appeared was unexpectedly not a lady cultivator in the white Taoist robes, but another white-clad cultivator. The cultivator was in glowing spirits, with an air of transcendence fluttering about him. It was the one from the meeting at the Palace of Divine Might who had randomly fought with Pei Ming, Qingxuan. He waved his whisk, a smile hanging from his lips. "Greetings, Your Highness," Hualian smiled back. "Greetings, fellow cultivator." Truthfully, he really wanted to ask who he was, but thought it would be rude. He was about to sneak a peek at his scroll to see which heavenly official was named Qingxuan, when the person in question walked up to him and exclaimed, Let's go take a stroll down below." Hualian was taken aback. "My friend, I'm waiting for someone." Hearing this, the cultivator stuffed his whisk into the back collar of his outer robe and turned around in wonder. "Who else are you waiting for?" "I'm waiting for Lord Windmaster," Hualian replied. The white-clad cultivator looked even more confused. "Aren't I right here?" Ellipse reply. Another first for Volume 2. Hualian's brows jumped. "You're the Windmaster?" The other flashed open his fan and started fanning. "I am the Windmaster. Was there ever any doubt? Did you not know who I was? Have you never heard my name? The Windmaster Qingxuan?" His tone was irrefutable and absolute, strong and confident, as if Hualian not knowing his name was an impossible thought to entertain. The folding fan had the word for wind, feng, written on the front, while the back had 3 flowing, inclining lines, the exact same fan that the lady cultivator in the white had held. Hualian suddenly recalled that Fu Yao had mentioned that some upper court heavenly officials, under special circumstances, had the ability to transform their appearance, while at Banyue, Nanfang had also uttered an incomplete sentence. The Windmaster had always been what? A man? After getting dragged for a few steps, Hualian still couldn't fully process this information. Lord Windmaster, why did you disguise yourself as a woman last time?" "What? Was I not beautiful?" the Windmaster asked. "Yes, but..." Hualian was still confused. "If I was beautiful, then there's no but, as long as I look good." The Windmaster smiled brightly. "Of course, it's because I knew I'd look good that I was in disguise." Having said that, he looked like he'd suddenly come up with an idea and closed his fan. He gave Hualian a once-over with a calculating expression, then spoke after a moment. "Speaking of which, why don't we go undercover for this mission to Ghost City?" Question mark, question mark, question mark, ellipse and question mark, Hualian replied. And that is the end of the 12th chapter of Heaven Official's Blessing. How do I even note this one down? It was literally ellipses followed by question mark ellipses. Is that like... It's a hybrid. Is it a 2-in-1? It's a 2-in-1 deal, I think. I think we should register it for both. Like, one for ellipses and one for question mark ellipses, because that was insane. Insane ellipses. Next level one. An intermediate ellipsis for, Volume 2. We're getting to the intermediate levels. Okay, tea acquired. Now, what is going on? Much like the beginning of Season 2, This chapter is about establishing some new cast members, some new important people, most notably Long Chencho and the Emperor, as well as introducing Pei Ming proper to the story. It's like Hualian says, we've heard so much about him, and now we finally get to meet him, you know? And I'll try not to repeat too much of my general Season 2 commentary from the first episode of Season 2. But now knowing what will happen with the whole Long Chencho situation, I can't help but notice these things even more. The little details of Hualian's exasperation over him falling asleep in this giant big heaven official meeting, you know? Like, there's a lot of cool detail like that. Other than that, a lot of the information we've gotten is pretty much the same information that we got from the Donghua. There's a little bit more detail in that we're getting explanations for the visual things that they're showing us, such as the whole map mural that we saw in the Donghua being a map of all of Junwoo's temples. But we're also getting the additional information that he has grown even more popular over the last 800 years. And honestly, what else is there to say? We're getting really fun, well, not fun, but, you know, infuriating, but fun descriptions of what the Heavenly Court is like, both the junior officials and the Heavenly officials. And I love these little, like, the way the author manages to paint the moods of these scenes. I think I am helped a little bit out by the way the Donghua has already made these images, you know, in my head. Though I do recognize some things that feel like design differences. Like the inside of the hall feels more grand in the Donghua, and while I feel that the details of where people are standing is more important in this one. Like, for instance, the detail that Fangxin and Muqing are standing at the southeast and southwest respectively. I just feel like that's neat and something you would do in writing. Something that you can choose to convey in your designs, but that probably wouldn't make the cut in this one. Like, it was more important to show how grand the Emperor's palace is, which I think that they really managed to convey. I think the hints as to who Windmaster is are pretty much there. Like, they're in your face from the moment this character is introduced because of the whisk and fan combination. And I absolutely do adore them still. I think overall my favorite thing about reading this contra watching this, again, is getting a little bit of that Hualian's inner thoughts. The fact that he doesn't want to say yes to Junwoo's request of being careful about Huachang. The fact that he has already kind of made up his mind about Huachang, even though he has the suspicion as well, he is also suspicious that Huachang was there. The timing is very, very conspicuous, and he is the only one who knows this timing. So he doesn't tell that to Junwoo, you know? He doesn't say that, well, coincidentally, Huachang left my place 7 days ago. No, he's decided that he's gonna figure this out for himself, and he's gonna give Huachang that chance to let him know. So we're about to go into the Ghost City arc. And just for fun, I did count the pages and realized that the next chapter isn't very long at all. So I was thinking I might squeeze in this next tiny chapter as well, because why not? I know I've already recorded for like at least a couple of maybe 4 hours. But you know, this is fun. This is good fun. And also the whole thing about the first episode of season 2 is that we get to meet Huachang at the end, and it's such a good, it's a great way to end that episode. And I'd love to see if the next chapter, I'm gonna peek at the title. Let me peek at the title. Entering Ghost City, the Crown Prince chances upon the Ghost King. So I feel like that is a Huachang entry, right? That is a Huachang entry. So why don't I read the next little chapter as well, and we can do that. We can end it at season 2, episode 1, in a sense. And furthermore, I am quite excited about my new little microphone arm thing that I can kind of move around to make sure the mic is closer to me when I read. Where I've got it right now, it doesn't extend all the way over here to the corner, but it is actually close enough for the sound to be a lot better than, yeah. So hey, why don't we try this? I mean, I have to test different positions to sit in for this to work out for us, so we'll give it a go, see how we like it. But so far, so good. So let's jump right into chapter 13 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Entering Ghost City, the Crown Prince chances upon the Ghost King. Much ashamed, it wasn't until 4 hours later that Hualian had the time to sneak a peek at his scroll to finally learn this Windmaster's backstory. The 5 elemental masters of the Heavenly Realm used their titles in place of their surnames. For example, before the Earth Master ascended, his mortal name was Ming Yi. After ascension, he was addressed as Earth Master Yi. As for the Windmaster, his former name was Shi Qingxuan, but after his ascension, he was called Windmaster Qingxuan. Befitting of his title, his personality was like a breeze. He was sociable and generous, uncaring about petty details, and very popular in the heavens. As was apparent from him easily tossing out 10,000 merits in the communication array. But at the end of the day, as his older brother was the god who controlled mortal wealth, of course the Windmaster was generous and uncaring about petty details. Indeed, the older brother of the Windmaster Qingxuan was the one they called Water Tyrant, the Water Master Wudu. Descending to the lower realms together, the 2 gods walked side by side, chatting as they traveled. Hualian had his arms crossed, and he commented sincerely, "The Pei family producing 2 ascended generals under one name was already a legend. But you and your brother ascending at the same time, one wind, one water, that is truly a tale of wonder." It must be known that in a million people, there might not be even one with the ability to ascend. Pei Ming and Pei Shuo were separated by a few hundred years, and Pei Shuo wasn't even a direct descendant. He was from Pei Ming's brother's branch of the family, a grand who knows how many times nephew. Okay, that's interesting. That is actually new information to me. Nephew, huh? The Water Master Wudu and the Windmaster Qingxuan were true blood-related brothers, a genuine pair of ascended officials from the same house, and thus truly incredible. Shi Qingxuan laughed it off. "It's nothing. My brother and I grew up in the same place, went to school under the same teacher, and cultivated the same path, so naturally we ascended together in the same lifetime." That was something Hualian also learned when he was cramming from the scroll earlier. Of the 2 elemental masters, Shi Wudu ascended first, but after only a few years, his brother Shi Qingxuan also successfully transcended a heavenly tribulation. Mortals often worship the 2 heavenly officials together in the same temple and praise them as equals. It was obvious that the 2 brothers enjoyed an excellent relationship. The Water Master must be the reason why Pei Ming wouldn't touch the Windmaster, as Sun Lung and Nanfeng had mentioned. After all, the brother of the Water Tyrant was not one to be picked on so easily. Having thought thus far, another point came across to Hualian's mind. He considered it before asking, "Lord Windmaster, at the Palace of Divine Might, from the way General Pei spoke, it sounded as if he shared friendship with your brother. Once you're filing the complaint against General Pei Jr. effect?" "Nah," Shi Qingxuan replied. "My brother already knows I can't stand Pei Ming." "Knowing is one thing, acting is another," Hualian said. "Won't this cause a rift between Lord Watermaster and General Pei?" "If it caused a rift, even better. I wish my brother would stop hanging out with him and leave that 3 tumors label behind one day," Shi Qingxuan said. Hualian stopped. "What 3 tumors?" Shi Qingxuan exclaimed, astonished. "What? You don't know about that either? Fine, alright. I know you're not up to date on anything. You can just listen for giggles. The 3 tumors is the moniker given to the 3 heaven officials who have a bad rep with basically everyone, but who are best buddies with each other, namely Mingguang, Lingwen, and my brother." "I can't believe it's not Hualian, and Hualian thought. That's one of my favorite lines from the first episode of season 2, actually. It's so good, it's so funny. Shi Qingxuan fanned his Windmaster fan and continued. "Even if I can't stand him, the whole business this time around was little Pei's fault. There's no way I'd let Pei Ming pin this on the state preceptor of Banyu and protect little Pei. It doesn't matter if you're a mortal, a god, or a ghost. You have to be responsible for your own actions. Bullying a little girl is low. Again, just the Windmaster's sense of justice. Yup. The last line was uttered in contempt, and Hualian smiled. The Windmaster is a defender of justice. I'm just writing this book as I go along. Shi Qingxuan laughed. You're not bad yourself. I'd heard the rumors here and there about Banyu Pass, but never had the time to investigate. Plus, my brother would yell at me about it. With so much on my plate, I'd forgotten. When I heard you ask about it in the communication array the other day, it reminded me that there was such a case pending, so I went to check it out. Turns out that not only did you ask, you even went through yourself. So I thought, dang, what a guy. The Windmaster certainly had an extremely straightforward and interesting personality. And Hualian could understand now why he was so popular in the heavens. He smiled, surprised to have made the acquaintance of such a heavenly official in the upper court, but just as he turned his head to face him, the white-clad cultivator beside him had transformed into a lady Taoist in white. It was so sudden, Hualian almost stumbled in his step. Lord Windmaster, why the sudden transformation? Oh, truth to be told, Your Highness, I'm actually more powerful in this form. Shi Qingxuan preened her long hair. As was mentioned earlier, Windmaster and the Watermaster were often worshipped together. However, this also produced a bizarre accident. Perhaps people thought that a single temple worshipping two male gods together was lacking something. Lords and ladies go hand in hand, so people thought having one male god and one female god would make it more complete. Thus, someone took a certain initiative, and that initiative was to sculpt the Windmaster as a goddess. Is this seriously it? Is this seriously how that just happened? I do like how the mortals and their way of believing does affect the heaven officials in some way, such as this, more powerful in the female form. But I also love Qingxuan for just going along with this, and apparently enjoying themselves. But it didn't end with the goddess statue. They had to make up stories to go with it too, things like the water and wind gods being brother and sister. There was even a version where they were husband and wife. After a few centuries, the falsehoods spread, and from them came even more outlandish legends. The two heavenly officials once read through the tales on a whim and cringed so hard, their goosebumps practically spilled off them. Oh yeah, I can imagine. It's basically like Qingxuan and Wudu just getting together and reading fanfiction about themselves. Oh, it must be so weird. Must be so weird being two, like, blood-related brothers even. Holy shit. Unfortunate accidents. Nonetheless, there were more than a few who believed in those outrageous stories, and thus did the Windmaster's gender become confused. My lady, prithee watch over me, could be heard all over the place. Thus, Shi Qingxuan was also known by the moniker Lady Windmaster. Although silly, such absurd occurrences were not rare. Ling Wen, for example, had a similar experience. Okay, she was a lady heavenly official, but she never dressed flamboyantly like the other celestial maidens. She was often dressed in black attire. She was competent and efficient, and she spent her days working madly through stacks and stacks of administrative scrolls at her palace. If one could ask any mortal, is Ling Wen a man or a woman, any of them would respond with confidence, a man. Oh God. Although her personality was partially to blame, much of it was due to another reason. Come now, of course a civil god must be male. For that alone, when Ling Wen ascended, she suffered brutal disadvantages. She was a civil goddess, but many in the mortal realm thought, how could a woman ever reach that position, oh my lord? Yeah, there is some right misogyny at play here. How could a lady possibly ensure good fortune in scholarly pursuits? Gosh, sometimes English just trips you off. I know this word, like I've known it for years and years and years. And still, I mostly know it because it's a move in Pokemon. My first source of proper English learning was through the first Pokemon games. Little Puffin lore there for you. Pursuit. Of course. Pursuit. I knew that. I knew that. She must not be effective. Thus, no matter how hard she worked, she still had only a few devotees. As time went on, some of her temple attendants were so upset by this treatment that they rebuilt her statues into male forms, transforming Ling Wen Yuanjin to Ling Wen Shenzhen. Okay, this is an explanation of that. I did wonder about this, and this is a very good explanation of it. Like, Windmaster's case is not an exception, it's something that happens to more officials. And crafted her own astonishing legends and backstories. After this change, her temples became prosperous and everyone praised how effective Ling Wen was, but in truth, it was still the same heavenly official. Her spiritual powers never changed, and her legends were all fake. Still, the people ate them up. Since then, whenever Ling Wen needed to appear in dreams or show herself to mortals, she could only do so in a male form. Okay. So Ling Wen on the list of characters who have an alternate form. That's interesting. I actually love, again, this sort of piece of lore that also helps build the universe around more than one character at the same time. And I wonder if that is going to be a thing later. We'll definitely bump into Ling Wen's male form at some point. And hopefully Hua Chang's female form too. By the same logic, because the people believed that it had to be a man and a woman together holding down the fort in the Temple of Wind and Water, that was how it became. Who cared whether you were a god or a ghost? You were whatever people believed you to be. Appearances could be a million miles off the mark from the real thing, and people would still see what they wanted to see. It was something the upper court, heavenly officials had long since stopped fretting over. As for Shi Qingxuan, from Hualian's own observations, he didn't appear to mind at all. In fact, he was completely immersed and enjoying himself. Not only that, he was even passionate about dragging others into it, making Hualian wonder about the real gender of the lady in black who was with the Windmaster before. Yup, that was our first hint about that, I suppose. In the 4 hours that they spent traveling down the heavenly realm together, Shi Qingxuan had tirelessly tried to persuade Hualian to disguise himself as a woman, with extremely convincing reasons, such as, women have stronger yin energy, therefore it will be much easier for you to hide in the ghost city crowds. Hualian thought about it, but then courteously rejected the idea. I don't have enough spiritual energy to transform. To that, Shi Qingxuan replied enthusiastically. I'll lend you mine. Isn't that the whole reason why the Heavenly Emperor appointed me to this mission? My lord, please save your powers for when we're actually fighting the enemy. Shi Qingxuan couldn't persuade Hualian, so she stopped pushing. By that time, the two had reached a wild field in the middle of nowhere. The night had deepened, and crows cawed raucously in the pitch-black woods. The air was ominous and desolate. Hualian watched for a moment before he said, Let's wait here. This place is thick with yin energy, and there is a large graveyard nearby, so there should be at least 1 or 2 going to the market. We'll follow them when the time comes. Thus, the pair crouched on top of a burial mound and waited. They weren't in that position for very long when Shi Qingxuan reached into a sleeve, rummaged around, and dug out a small jug of liquor. You want some? Hualian reached for the jug and took a sip, felt his throat burn, and then gave the jug back. Thanks. We did have a sip. He did have a sip. Shi Qingxuan took the jug and gulped down a couple of swallows. You can't drink? I can, Hualian replied, but excessive drinking causes insanity, so a simple taste is enough. What time is it? Shi Qingxuan hummed and replied, It's midnight. It should be about time then, Hualian said. Just as he finished his sentence, the two saw a faint row of lights appear deep in the woods. That faint row of lights slowly came closer and closer. When it emerged from the forest, the two finally saw that it was a group of expressionless women dressed in white, walking in a line. Some were old, some were young, some beautiful, some ugly. Each of them was wearing funeral garb and had a white lantern in hand, walking at an easy pace. They had to be female ghosts headed to the ghost city markets in the deep night. Let's follow them, Hualian whispered. Shechingchuan nodded, took a last swig from the jug, and tossed it aside. They then stood up and casually trailed behind the group of ghosts. The two had already prepared by erasing their spiritual aura. When they walked, they were like person-shaped logs without the scent of life. The band of female ghosts before them held their white lanterns and followed an unknown path in the dark woods, strolling while chatting in delicate voices. "I'm so glad Ghost City is open again. I need a facial," one said. "What happened to your face? Didn't you just get one?" Another replied. The first one responded, "It rotted again. That one who served me last time said it was guaranteed fresh for a year, but it hasn't even been half of that." God, I love this conversation, by the way. There's another one that just like, it's banter between these ghosts that we're following, but it actually contributes to the world building as well. And it makes the world feel so alive. Like, ghosts are worried. Female ghosts are worried about their beauty treatment, their skincare routines. And that is, that's fucking amazing. Hualian and Shechingchuan trailed behind them, listening to their chatter and didn't speak a word. When they heard something funny, at most, their lips would twitch and they'd share looks with each other. After about an hour, the group came to a valley. A faint red light emitted from deep within it, and there was music wafting in the ethereal night. Hualian grew more and more curious to finally see for himself what Ghost City looked like. Yet unexpectedly, just as they were entering the valley, the last ghost in the line suddenly turned her head and discovered them. Confused, she asked, "Who are you two?" The question made all the ghastly, pale-faced heads turn, and the women surrounded them curious. "When did they start following us? These two weren't part of the group when we left the burial grounds." "Which burial ground did you come from? How come we've never seen your faces before?" Hualian cleared his throat. "We came from a burial ground much further away, so of course you've never seen us." Shechingchuan smiled too. "That's right, we traveled a long way just to reach Ghost City." The white-clad female ghosts were silent and stared at them expressionlessly. If they were anyone else, they'd probably fall to the ground, shivering in fright. Hualian wasn't afraid of having their identities exposed, though. These meek female ghosts could hardly threaten them. Still, since Ghost City was right before their eyes, it wouldn't be wise to start anything so close to their target, lest they alert their enemy. Just then, one of the women staring at Shechingchuan spoke up languidly. Mei. If I remember correctly, this is kind of like Gaga, but like more female-ish and like not quite sister, because that's Jie, I think. It's female-oriented something. I'm not quite sure what it is just yet, but I've heard it before. Mei, your face is very nicely maintained, she said. Hualian and Shechingchuan were taken aback. Then the two immediately nodded uniformly. Hualian replied, "It's alright, not bad." Shechingchuan copied his tone and said, "Pretty good, right?" All the female ghosts then approached and started a discussion. "Yeah, not rotten at all. Mei, where did you get your face done? What's your secret? Can you recommend me a place?" Shechingchuan didn't know how to respond, so she only laughed awkwardly to delay answering. Just then, the group turned around and suddenly crimson light flooded Hualian's vision. A strange and mysterious world opened before him. This part, Like the way they animated the entry into Ghost City and also the first part of it was just absolutely amazing. I really loved that part of the first episode. So here we go. They were on a long street. It was so long that there was no end in sight. Along the edges of the great street were all types of bustling stores and stalls. Colorful signs flew high above, and giant red lanterns were hung below. People filled the street, most wearing masks of faces crying, laughing, angry, some human, some not human. Those without masks could only be described as bizarre. Some had large heads and small bodies, some skinny as bamboo sticks, and some flat like a pancake and pressed to the ground, complaining as pedestrians walked all over them. Hualian was careful not to step on anything weird. When he passed by a food stall, he saw the stall owner use a giant bone to furiously stir a giant pot of soup. While stirring, saliva spilled from between the stall owner's teeth, dripping into the soup. In that weird, many-colored soup, he could see eyeballs floating. Hualian watched and was filled with a sudden sense of confidence. On the other side, there were strange buskers performing. A buff, burly man had a small ghost, weak as a chick, in his clutches, and the man opened his mouth to blow massive flames and barbecue the small ghost, while it squealed and writhed like a pig being slaughtered. The spectators cheered and shrieked, shouting "Bravo!" There were even insane individuals randomly throwing money into the air, the paper fluttering in the sky like drifting snow. When one slip of it flew before Hualian, he nabbed it and flipped it over. It was the money of the dead, as he thought. Continuing down the street, there was a butcher's stall with a row of languishing, pallid human heads hung in order of age, as indicated on the price tags. A child's meat was this much, a youth's meat was that much, a grown man's cost this amount, a mature woman's meat went for that much, cartilage sold for this. The apron-clad butcher, knife in hand, was a boar with thick black hair. What it was chopping under its knife was a muscular human leg, still twitching. This was truly a swarm of evil, a carnival of hell. Humans butchering pigs was a common sight, but pigs butchering humans wasn't, so Hualian couldn't help but steal a few extra peeks. The boar noticed him watching, though, and immediately reacted. "What are you looking at? You buying?" Hualian shook his head. "No." The boar butcher continued to chop violently onto the cutting board, blood spraying all over. He yelled, voice rough, "If you aren't buying, then don't watch. If I can try to start something, get out of here." Hualian got out of there. But just as his steps quickened, he suddenly realized something very bad. That group of female ghosts and Shi Qingxuan had disappeared without a trace. Shocked, Hualian wanted to connect with the Windmaster at once within the communication array, afraid that she was really dragged away by those ghosts to do facials. However, this was Ghost City, and the communication spells used by the Heavenly Realm were restricted. The connection to the array didn't work, so he had no choice but to wander the streets aimlessly in search of the missing Windmaster. Okay, so that's a good little piece of information. The communication array wouldn't work in Ghost City anyway. I think this is a good restriction to put in, because if not, this mission would be easier in regards of exchanging information with everyone. So I think this one's important. It makes it so that they have to be in the same place and have to talk out loud to exchange information. As he walked, someone suddenly grabbed him. Oh yeah, the prostitute ghost. Already alert and tense, Hualian reacted instantly. Who? The one who stopped him was a woman. And she was surprised by Hualian's reaction, but after seeing his face clearly, she started giggling, playing coy. "Hi there, little Gaga." Oh my god, it's a fake Gaga again. "You're looking mighty fine." This woman was in an exceedingly revealing dress, her makeup terrifyingly loud. The white powder was uneven, and when she opened her mouth, clumps of it would flake off her face. Her bosom was stuffed full, as if something were packed under her flesh. Truly a shocking sight. Hualian gently pushed away her thin claw-like fingers and said, "Miss, there's no need to speak like that." The woman was stunned at first, then burst out laughing. "Dear Lord, miss! Who still calls me that in this day and age?" The people around them all seemed to think it was funny too, and they started laughing along. Hualian shook his head, but before he could speak, the woman pounced on him. So aggressive. "Oh, don't go, little Gaga. I like you. Come and have fun with me all night. I won't ask for money." She pouted and winked. "But I will charge." What a sin, Hualian repented inwardly, then kindly but firmly pushed her away. He chided gently. "Miss, please." Yet the woman suddenly appeared to be annoyed and screeched, "Stop calling me miss. Ain't no one here who cares for it. Quit wasting my time. Are you coming or not?" To tempt Hualian further, the woman suddenly unlaced her already revealing shirt. Her boldness caught Hualian off guard, and he didn't stop her in time. So he sighed softly again, turning his eyes away. Yeah, they didn't animate that. He continued on his way, stepping around her. However, the female ghost stopped him again and continued her teasing. "Do you like what you see?" Little did she realize, Hualian had grown up in the royal holy temple, practicing abstinence for most of his mortal life. His body and mind had always been guarded and as steady as the mountains. Well, I know of someone who's going to break that mountain down. It didn't matter what he saw, his heart was still as water. Anything unseemly would make him automatically chant Daaaddy, one of the foundational texts of Taoism written in the 4th century, sonorously in his mind, keeping him completely indifferent. Unsuccessful in her temptation, the female ghost's expression changed and she tsked. "You don't want any of this? Not even for free? Are you even a man?" Hualian moved his eyes away. "I am." "Then prove it," the female ghost yelled. From the sidelines, a passerby laughed mockingly. "You slut, he thinks you're old and ugly, and want none of you. What are you doing being so clingy?" Hearing those words, Hualian deadpanned with a straight face. "That's not it. It's because I have an unspeakable affliction. I can't get erect." Everyone was stunned. Then, in a flash, boisterous laughing erupted. The victim of ridicule was now Hualian. None had ever met a man who was brave enough to announce in public that he had such a problem. However, to someone like Hualian, it didn't matter in the least whether his root of evil could sin or not. Root of evil. It took me a couple of tries to realize what we were on about. To someone like Hualian, it didn't matter in the least whether his root of evil could sin or not. So he'd developed the habit of using that as an excuse to get out of these kinds of situations. Oh my god. And it was a method that worked excellently every single time. Sure enough, the female ghost redid her shirt immediately and stopped pestering him. "No wonder you're like this. What a pig. If you have a problem, why didn't you say so sooner?" Tsk. Not far behind them, the boar butcher chopped down again and yelled, "Fucking slut. What's that you say? What's wrong with pigs?" The female ghost wasn't scared and yelled right back, "Yeah, what's wrong with pigs? Fucking animals." Soon, the long street was filled with shouting and squawking and people hollering. That ghost woman, Lan Tang, is starting shit again. Butcher Zhu. Butcher Zhu is chopping ghosts. Okay, so her name was dropped in the Donghua as well, but I'll make sure to add it to the board now that we have it here as well. I'm expecting that she is gonna turn up again because I did ask about her when we were watching this, and people did tell me that yeah, she might be important. So we're gonna keep an eye on her. Butcher Zhu, though, should we write him down as well? The pig butcher, the boar butcher. The two sides roundly started tearing into each other, and in the midst of that pandemonium, Hualian was finally able to slip away. After he'd put some distance between them, he looked back towards the crowd and heaved a sigh. Hualian walked a bit more, and soon he came upon further commotion ahead. He stopped in front of a gigantic red building. The building was extraordinary in its grand and imposing style. Its columns, roofs, walls, and everything were painted a magnificent bright red, and the floors were covered in thick, exquisite carpet. If it must be compared, this building was on par with the Heaven's palaces. The only difference was one of aesthetic. This place was more spectacular and sumptuous than stately and dignified. Crowds flowed in and out of the doors, and loud, excited voices boomed from the inside, very lively. Upon a closer look, Hualian saw that this place appeared to be a gambler's den. Hualian walked up to the doors, and on the 2 pillars at the entrance, there was a set of couplets. The left one said, "Money of a life," and the right said, "Gains of a shame." On the top horizontal beam, it said, "Ha ha 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 ha." Ellipse answer from Hualian there. The lines were vulgar and crass, not worthy of being entrance couplets. The calligraphy was also wild, clumsy, and frenzied. A disgrace to call it calligraphy at all. It was as if someone took a brush while drunk and scribbled with foul intent. And then the words were blown over by a blast of evil aura to form it. Hualian was once heir to the throne, and he was taught calligraphy by the finest teachers in the land. The characters he saw before him now were a real tragedy. In fact, the characters were so hellish that Hualian started to think they were kind of funny and shook his head. The Windmaster wouldn't be hanging around here, he thought. I'll have a better chance searching the beauty parlors for female ghosts. He certainly should have just moved on, yet inexplicably. After only a few steps, he turned back around and went inside. In the main hall of the gambler's den, the crowd was packed in from wall to wall. Innumerable heads were moving in laughter, and desperate cries alike choked the air. Hualian had only descended a few steps when he suddenly heard screaming. And when he looked to where it had come from, 4 masked bouncers were walking over carrying a guest. That man appeared to be in excruciating pain, writhing and howling while being carried, gushing blood that he left in his wake. Both of his legs had been cleanly cut off at the knees, and blood was spewing everywhere. A small ghost followed closely and greedily licked up all the blood on the floor as it went. It was a horrifying sight, yet no one in the gambler's den spared it a glance. They continued to shout and cheer, rolling about. Of course, most who gambled here weren't humans, and if they were no ordinary humans. Hualian twisted in place to let the 4 bouncers carrying the man pass by, and then he continued deeper into the den. A petite attendant in a laughing mask approached to welcome him. Gongzi, I'll figure that out. I'll figure it out sometime. Are you here to play? Hualian replied with a smile. I don't have money on me. Mind if I just look? In his experience, the moment you said those words in any establishment, you'd get booted. Why would you enter without money? Yet the petite attendant just giggled. No, money is not a problem. Those who come here to play don't usually use money to gamble. Really? Hualian asked. The petite attendant covered her mouth. Really? Gongzi, please come with me. She waved at Hualian, beckoning him, and sashayed away. Hualian followed her without a word, but carefully observed all around him, inside and out. This gambler's den was exceedingly extravagant and stylish, but not at all tacky. It was a building rich with taste. Well, the petite attendant brought Hualian to the very back of the main hall to a long table that was packed like sardines with guests. Hualian had only just approached when he heard a man cry, "I bet my arm!" There were too many onlookers. Hualian couldn't get through and could only listen from the outskirts of the crowd. Suddenly, He heard another voice lazily respond, "No need. Never mind your arm. Even your shit life is worthless here." Hearing that voice, Hualian's heart suddenly jumped. He silently mouthed the name, Sunlong. He'd indeed just heard the voice of that young man, yet it was slightly deeper than he remembered, which was precisely why it sounded even more pleasing to the ears. Despite being surrounded by boisterous brouhaha, the voice still rang loud and clear, and cut through the cacophony of the gambler's den to reach him. Hualian looked up. Only then did he notice that behind the long table there was a screen curtain, and behind the curtain he could see a faint red figure lying back, lounging on a chair. And that is chapter 13 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and also the end of season 2, episode 1. I am so satisfied with that progress, actually. I'm glad I did read the second chapter, even though, oh my lord, this video is so long. It's so long. But honestly, that is me at this point. It's summer vacation mode. I'm making long, unnecessarily long videos with TGCF stuff, because I know that these videos are going to be fewer and far further between once I get back to work in a couple of weeks. But also, like, there's so much stuff that I already do know in these chapters, so I feel like the reading part is going quite smoothly. Still, there was a little bit of setup here. Like, there's quite a bit of it, actually. Like, we're at page 58 of this book now, and I can see the gray line going through here, and I'm guessing that it's gonna be, let's see, yeah, Arc 2. So it's like we've got this much left of season 2, and I've already like read this much. I know this means nothing to y'all, but what it means to me is that, wow, season 2 in just these pages, holy shit. But that's also kind of exciting. So I feel like the story is going to pick up, but we still had some, you know, things to establish, and that's why this chapter is moving more slowly. I don't think they're moving slowly at all, actually. There's so many things happening in just these first 50-ish pages. Don't you think so, Hualian? You're so busy. You're such a busy bee. Putting your nose into all these little things. I mean, thank you for your service, but it's about to get messy. You're about to get hurt, physically and mentally. Please take better care of yourself. Again, there's hardly anything to remark upon regarding differences. Of course, the novel gets to be a bit more crass, a little bit more vulgar, because the animation has to be, you know, a bit more all ages sort of thing. So that is to be expected. But I am enjoying getting to go into Ghost City again. And I am enjoying the fact that we have Sunlong back on screen. And this is so good. Also, I did notice this in the first volume as well. But I kind of want to mention it out loud, like, feel free to disagree with me. But Sunlong's voice is constantly being described as quite deep, and even deeper when he is in his Hwachong form. So I'm just saying that it is very easy for me to imagine him having a voice akin to the one that they chose for the English dub. His voice actor for the Mandarin original version is, of course, he's great. He does a really good job. And it certainly is a little bit deeper than Hualian's voice in the Mandarin version. But it's not a voice that I would have listened to and thought, oh, that is a deeper voice as described in a novel. While both the Japanese and the English dub have picked voices that matches that for me. Then again, I think most of the voices I heard in the Mandarin version were quite soft, and maybe that's just because, again, I am too unfamiliar with Mandarin to really tell the differences like that. Like, again, I'm saying the casting is good, but I'm also saying that reading the book, I would expect Hwachong to have a deeper voice. I think they managed to accomplish that, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that was pretty unimportant actually, but still, just something that came to mind. Some new information from this chapter is, I think most notably, the fact that multiple Heaven officials, including Ling Wen, might have alternate forms as influenced by their followers, really. And because it's like that, sometimes they'll be more powerful if they wear the form or are in the form that their followers have assign them. And I thought that was interesting, and I think that that is definitely planting some sort of seed. I think that Lingwen will show up in their male form at some point because of something related to this and maybe to the plot as well. Another thing for our list of interesting. But let's not drag this out any longer. We are still just in parts of the story that we are already very familiar with, so let's do our tallies. So far in Volume 2, we have 3 new ellipsis answers from Hualian, adding to a total of 30 altogether in the series. There's also an ellipsis question mark that I registered, so we're at a total of 5. Love or Cry tally, 1 for Volume 2, we're going up to 8. And Gaga tally, depressingly empty, but we're getting there, because we have arrived with the Gaga enthusiast. Okay, that was most of the important stuff that we have to do. And with the tally out of the way, I'm gonna go and let you guys know that I've started Volume 2. Thank you so much for joining my read-along. This has been Amelia, aka Puffin, and I will see you in the next one.